Chapter 1370. Every successful cultivator has his own set of unique skills, there is no doubt about this. The old tree demon's unique skill was to suppress more than a dozen tribulations in a row. Now the old tree demon's unique skill has been successfully taught to Yang Chen. Gong Sunling, Gao Yu, Sun Qingxue, Shi Shanshan all followed this set of methods. Everyone successfully suppressed the Yin fire tribulation at least 5 times before they began to face the real tribulation. Although the demon seal formation could also stop the tribulation from descending, there was not such a good condition here. Moreover, the heavenly tribulation that was suppressed by oneself and the heavenly tribulation that relied on external forces were two completely different concepts. Yang Chen now, according to the method of the old tree demon, successfully suppressed it once. The fusion of 5 kinds of 6th-grade fire seeds allowed his cultivation base to directly reach the edge of the peak Yuanying stage. This was not one kind of spiritual power, but 10 kinds of spiritual power arrived at the same time. The yin-yang heaven-burning fire, coupled with various attributes of the original spiritual liquid, made it easy for Yang Chen to achieve the balance of yin and yang 5 elements. He believed that when this tribulation came, the scale would be exciting. According to the original plan, Yang Chen was not afraid of wasting time. It took another 10 years and successfully absorbed another kind of 6th-grade fire seed into the yin-yang heaven-burning fire. The yin-yang heaven-burning fire, which had absorbed 6 kinds of 6th-grade fire seeds, became more and more peculiar. The original dark purple yang fire dragon, at the moment, was turning to a deeper color, and it looked like it had a trace of black. The yin fire dragon, which should have been cyan, was getting lighter and lighter, slowly developing towards white. Yang Chen released the yin-yang heaven-burning fire. Looking from a distance, it was a black and a white fire dragon. Whether it was black or white, it wasn't that pure, but anyone could see the trend of change. The legendary yin-yang heaven-burning fire, no one has ever seen it, and Yang Chen himself did not know that it would be like this. It looked weird, but it was terrifying when it burned. After trying a big circle, Yang Chen has not found anything that can't be melted. Even if it was protected by spiritual power, it would be burned along with the spiritual power protecting it. It was as if spiritual power was the best fuel. After another 10 years, adding up to a full 60 years, Yang Chen finally ushered in his own tribulation after suppressing several yin fire tribulations. Even if they had seen the power of the yin fire tribulation of the Penglai divine wood demons, the women were still shocked when they saw the yin fire tribulation of Yang Chen. The yin fire tribulation of the Penglai divine wood demon was triggered by the collective efforts of 24 Penglai divine wood demons, which was equivalent to the arrival of 24 heavens tribulations at the same time, and the superimposed power had already made people weak. However, Yang Chen's yin fire tribulation was aimed at Yang Chen alone. It was a superposition of organization, discipline, and goals. Only the first heavens tribulation had the horror of the 9th yin fire that the Penglai divine wood demons had collectively passed. The entire danger zone was completely engulfed by the yin fire, and the glaze that had been burnt into a single piece quickly melted again. This was not the end. After the melting, the glaze liquid began to emit bursts of colorful smoke, and the glaze liquid was actually gasified into gas. All the women were now in the Deshang stage. Under the protection of Gong Suanling's Mountain River geographical map, they stayed quietly in a corner of the danger zone, staring at the terrifying flames raging on Yang Chen's body. Even with such protection, everyone could still feel the astonishing heat wave. Only in the first moment, all the clothes on Yang Chen's body were turned into ashes. Fortunately, all the women had skin contact with Yang Chen, so at this moment it was not so embarrassing. Fortunately, Yang Chen's innate spirit root was of the fire attribute, and playing with fire was what Yang Chen was best at. The terrifying yin fire began to burn directly on Yang Chen's body and soon spread all over Yang Chen's body. Just in an instant, Yang Chen's 7 orifices were all spewing flames, and Yang Chen's face could no longer be seen. Surprisingly, Yang Chen did not use any protective magic weapon, nor did he use his life source flying sword, nor did he use his life source true fire. He completely resisted the first Yin fire with his physical body and cultivation base. The great Yin and Yang 5 elements secret art has been operated to the limit, and the power contained in the Yin fire was quickly converted into other attributes of spiritual power, and the body was tempered again and again. The duration of the Yin fire tribulation was also incomprehensible. Just the first Yin fire tribulation, it burned for an hour, and Yang Chen was completely burned from the inside out, and then it was slowly integrated into the Yin-Yang heaven burning fire. Just the first tribulation basically completed the tempering of the body that usually required 9 Yin fire tribulations to complete. After a lot of 4 C's mysterious coral liquid, the body itself did not have too many impurities. This time, it was completely burning all the impurities in Yang Chen's body that could be solved at this stage. Until this moment, the hearts of the women finally returned to their chests. However, this was only a temporary peace of mind. Yang Chen still needed to withstand 8 more and more powerful Yin fire to complete the baptism of the Yin fire tribulation. From the beginning of the second Yin fire tribulation, the women no longer saw flames on the surface of Yang Chen's body. It seemed that all the flames had just been produced, and they were not known where Yang Chen had hidden them. This was also the case. All the Yin fire was transferred by Yang Chen to the process of refining the core of the demon continent with the method of the merit chapter. The power of the tribulation was at least 10,000 times stronger than the spiritual power that Yang Chen mobilized with half of his mind, especially when this kind of power was hit on one point. The continuous and terrifying Yin fire burned the core of the demon continent madly. Under the targeted control of Yang Chen, the last resistance of the core of the demon continent was constantly being disintegrated. The space seemed to be slowly melting. Under the protection of the merit chapter, the refining process accelerated smoothly, but it would not cause any rebound. It was only a short period of 10 hours of Yin fire burning, but it saved Yang Chen at least decades of refining hard work. When the 8th Yin fire was completed, the core of the demon continent had only a little resistance left. The 9th Yin fire had not even been completely burned, and the core of the demon continent had been completely refined. Boom! The blazing flame appeared on Yang Chen's whole body again. This time the power was even stronger. Yang Chen had to take the initiative to summon the Yin-Yang heaven-burning fire, and began to madly absorb the last power of the tribulation. Even this level of Yin-Yang heaven-burning fire still could not completely absorb the power of the Yin fire. If this continues, Yang Chen is likely to be unable to support the last Yin fire and fall short. In a hurry, Yang Chen suddenly flashed a bold idea in his mind. He directly took out the profound spirit furnace and threw it into the Yin fire. As soon as it touched the Yin fire, the profound spirit furnace began to absorb the Yin fire quickly. Chapter 1371. This time the profound spirit furnace absorbed the Yin fire, which was completely different from the previous absorption and preservation of the fire seeds. The fire seeds that were absorbed before were preserved in the refined space inside the profound spirit furnace, and the fire seeds would not touch each other at all. But this time, the furnace itself began to absorb the power of the Yin fire, which was completely different from absorbing the fire seeds. Yang Chen did not regard the Yin fire as a kind of fire seed at all this time, but as a kind of aura. Under the protection of the merit chapter, Yang Chen wanted to completely refine the aura of the Yin fire in the entire profound spirit furnace. In the future, any medicinal pill refined with the profound spirit furnace would naturally have the Yin fire qi, and there would be a kind of medicinal effect of refining the body out of thin air. Without the restraint of the core refining of the demon continent, Yang Chen was a lot more relaxed and devoted himself to the process of refining the profound spirit furnace. The sudden surge of power made Yang Chen feel so comfortable that he almost moaned out loud. As soon as the profound spirit furnace was refined, the ninth fire tribulation was lengthened several times out of thin air. Finally, after 2 days, the last fire also entered the profound spirit furnace, and the tribulation clouds in the danger zone began to dissipate rapidly. Boom, when everything was completed and the tribulation clouds disappeared, the spiritual power in Yang Chen's body finally completed the conversion from quantitative change to qualitative change. In an instant, the spiritual power was compressed at least twice, the meridians were empty, and the spiritual energy in the surrounding space began to replenish crazily. The body of the yellow-turbaned strongman's body, refining arcane power, was in the middle of the sea, and it has completely experienced the tempering of the fire tribulation. Yang Chen's body shape has not changed much, but Yang Chen himself can feel that the density of the muscles and tendons has more than doubled. Although there was no effort, the feeling of the surging power that the body gave him made Yang Chen feel very good. Without the test, Yang Chen knew that after experiencing the baptism of the fire, his strength had at least doubled, and the strength of his body had also more than doubled. The sea of consciousness was wrapped in a flame and burned from the inside to the outside, as if all the unnecessary things in the sea of consciousness were driven away. Under the effect of the flames, his sea of consciousness continued to expand like it was expanding with heat and contracting with cold. It only stopped after expanding to twice its original size. The flames quickly disappeared and his sea of consciousness began to slowly shrink, stopping at about 6,000 mu in size. Compared to the last time, his sea of consciousness had expanded by almost 1,000 mu. After experiencing the baptism of the fire, his spiritual awareness broke through the bottleneck of the 10th stage of the human immortal realm and completely entered the earthly immortal realm. Even though he was only a grade 1 earthly immortal, it was a world of difference compared to before. At this moment, Yang Chen finally became a real master of the Deshang stage. The whole family also entered the Deshang stage, and there was no Yuanying stage cultivation base. The moment the tribulation cloud dissipated, Sun Qingshue's figure had already rushed out and directly threw herself into Yang Chen's arms. The second to arrive at Yang Chen's side was Shi Wushuang, occupying the other side of Yang Chen's chest. Gao Yu, Shi Shanshan, Gong Sunling, and the Murong sisters just walked to Yang Chen's side with a smile and looked at the three of them hugging each other. At this moment, Yang Chen did not dare to make the action of hugging Sun Qingxue and Shi Wushuang, for fear that he would hurt them if he did not adapt to the strength of his body. He could only stretch out his arms and let the two women hug him on the left and right, as if to express his innocence. The funny action made the women who came later laugh. "Congratulations, my husband!" When everyone's excitement slowly subsided, the women congratulated Yang Chen. Everyone was happy from the bottom of their hearts. Before Yang Chen's heavenly tribulation was so terrifying that everyone had the illusion of surviving a disaster. Yang Chen accepted the congratulations of the women with great joy, but the expression of expectation on his face could no longer be concealed. Once he reached the great vehicle stage, he only needed to wait for the Languel to start sending the Taishaman step by step into the abyss of annihilation. At the thought that the long-cherished wish of his 2 lifetimes would soon be realized, Yang Chen could not help but feel excited. The women looked at Yang Chen in astonishment. To be able to make Yang Chen like this, it could only mean that it was a big event. "Husband, is there something big to be done in the great vehicle stage?" Gong Sunling and Murong Yen asked curiously. "Big event." Yang Chen paused for a moment, then replied with a smile. "That's right, it's a big event. In the past 10,000 years there's nothing bigger than this." When everyone asked for more details, Yang Chen did not say much. He only instructed, "Hurry up and consolidate your cultivation. No matter how big the matter is, it'll have to wait until after we leave the Languel." The women did not agree, but Yang Chen made up his mind. He kept his mouth shut and refused to say a word. Everyone guessed for a long time, but no one got to the point and they lost interest. Only Gong Sunling seemed to think of something and thought about it, but she also did not say a word. The decades of dedicated cultivation were enough for the greatest heaven-sex affairs to ferment to a certain extent. The people of the Wine Immortal house should have begun to slowly investigate which female cultivators were missing. The disappearance of hundreds of famous female cultivators was definitely a big event. He believed that in the near future, the topic of discussion in the mouths of the cultivators would only be this: the preparation of the heaven and earth everlasting original suppression formation was almost complete. The formation could be used for about 10 or 20 years. Yang Shi, the chief steward Yang, had endured for so many years, and finally it was time to see the moon. Poor young sect master Li Liheng, in this life, he still couldn't escape the fate of being killed by Yang Shi. All of this still needed a fuse to detonate, which Yang Chen had already planned. When he was alone with Gong Sunling, Yang Chen asked about the situation of Li Junyu, the elder of the Green Jade Immortal Island, who was the first to be collected into the Mountain River geographical map. She is still cultivating in the map. What's wrong? Gong Sunling asked. Nothing. Pay more attention to her these years and completely destroy her mind. When I go out, my husband will be of great use, Yang Chen whispered. He believed that Gong Sunling would do things properly. For elder Li Junyu, who wanted to kill him, Yang Chen did not even have the slightest sympathy. At that time, he did not directly kill her and let her live for so long. It was already Yang Chen's big heart. In the future, everything that Yang Chen used her to do, she would pay the price for her own behavior. Li Junyu, Lu Ziwei, Bei Shuangyu, Yang Shi, Li Liheng, Lu Fengzi, Free Demon Heart Sutra, Heaven and Earth Everlasting Original Suppression Formation, all of these were related links in a series of plans of Yang Chen, and finally, all the links were strung together. At that moment, it was also the beginning of the destruction of the Taishaman. Next, everyone consolidated their cultivation while waiting for the time to leave the Languel. Chapter 1372. Crossing the Tribulation was one of the goals of Yang Chen, entering the Languel with his wives and concubines. Now all of them have been achieved. Basically, Yang Chen has no more pressure in the Languel, just waiting for the day when the Languel opens. The core of the demon continent was refined by Yang Chen with the help of the tribulation, which was an unexpected surprise. The ordinary Mahayana Yin fire tribulation could not support the huge energy of refining the core of the demon continent at all, but the Yin fire tribulation triggered by Yang Chen was dozens of times more powerful than the ordinary tribulation. This powerful force was borrowed by Yang Chen to refine the core of the demon continent, and it finally paid off. At the time of refining, Yang Chen was still in the midst of the tribulation, so he instinctively closed the space exit directly. Anyway, it had been refined, and it was only a matter of Yang Chen's thoughts to open or close it. But what Yang Chen didn't expect was that the demon continent suddenly underwent a terrifying change at that moment. The ultimate demonized vine died, and was replaced by a demonized giant tree. The strength of the plant attribute allowed the demonized giant tree to directly occupy the position of the ultimate demonized vine, firmly wrapping the demonic energy escape point under its own root. After Yang Chen's family left the demon continent, it took less than a year for a new ultimate demonic creature to be born again in the core of the demon continent. Although its strength was not as strong as the ultimate demonized vine, it was already the strongest in the core area of the demon continent. After hundreds of years of continuous exposure to the high concentration of demonic energy, the demonized giant tree had been successfully catalyzed to the first grade of the Earth Immortal by the demonic energy. In time, it would be easy to become the second grade of the Earth Immortal like the ultimate demonized vine. However, this dream was suddenly interrupted at the moment when Yang Chen refined the core of the demon continent. From that moment on, there was no trace of demonic energy overflowing from the escape point of the monstrous demonic energy. Suddenly, the core area of the entire demon continent began to riot like a raging sea. The beasts in the central area relied on the nourishment of the demonic energy to continue to breed the next generation. Once the source of the demonic energy was cut off, they would no longer have the ability to reproduce. Without the nourishment of the demonic chi, all the beasts immediately became agitated. Originally, after being affected by the demonic chi, the demonic beast's instinct was to kill. Now, even the breeding beasts had started to become like this. Countless species of beasts began to kill each other in a frenzy, turning the entire core region into a huge slaughterhouse. If there are guys in the demon continent who can enter this area, they will be frightened by the crazy scene here. Even if Yang Chun had entered this area in the past, he would definitely have been killed instantly. There was no chance of him surviving. The central area was like this. In other parts of the demon continent, there was suddenly a storm of demonic beasts killing madly. The masters who were training in the demon continent stared dumbfoundedly at the demonic beasts that had become more violent than before in an instant, and they couldn't believe their eyes. The smarter ones immediately began to flee frantically. No matter what happened, they had to get to a safe place first. And some greedy guys still wanted to take advantage of the opportunity of the demonic beasts killing each other to get more devilish speed. All this happened, Yang Chen was not clear for the time being. He only knew that after he closed the passage where the demonic chi escaped, he didn't have to worry about refining the space and could deal with the heavenly tribulation with all his strength. Now that everything had been settled, Yang Chun finally had time to study this refined space node. The most important thing was that Yang Chen wanted to refine this space node into the Immortal beheading saber. In this way, the Immortal beheading saber would have the power to cut off the space locally. Even if it was only a small point like the core of the demon continent, after combining with the Immortal beheading saber, it would have the power to make people collapse. Of course, the best way was to integrate the entrance of the Immortal beheading stage with the Immortal beheading saber. However, refining the entrance of the Immortal beheading stage was several times more difficult than refining the core of the demon continent. Perhaps Yang Chun would continue to refine it until he ascended. Unfortunately, even if the space was refined into the Immortal beheading saber, in the Languel, there was no worthy opponent for Yang Chun to test the saber. At most, there were only some masters in the Deshang stage. The only master who appeared had been beheaded by Yang Chun to open the new Immortal beheading saber. Now where could he find a worthy master? The four wives and Yang Chun had just crossed their tribulation, and the urgent matter was to consolidate their cultivation base first. In fact, for them, the so-called consolidation of their cultivation base was almost meaningless. The previous accumulation was too deep, just like the old tree demon Gui Shanyu, who had just entered the early Deshang stage. His combat power was enough to compete with the masters of the middle and late Deshang stage. It was said that it was to consolidate his cultivation base. It was better to let Yang Chun enjoy the blessings of having multiple wives. In addition to Tao Junki, his wives and concubines were all around him, and the Dragon Palace was also taken with him. In this case, was there a better way to consolidate than yin and yang dual cultivation? In the following days, Yang Chen's life was simply more fragrant than the most debauched and tyrannical ruler in the world, and other enjoyments were endless. In the mortal world, even if they were emperors, which one had seen the tea leaves personally fried by a master of the Deshang stage, who had eaten the dishes cooked by a master of the Deshang stage, who had worn the clothes embroidered by a master of the Deshang stage, who had drunk the wine brewed by a master of the Deshang stage. Once in the Deshang stage, the essence of many things seemed to have changed. The realm determined the horizon. If it was said that in the Yuanying stage, they still wanted to travel around to increase their knowledge and improve their state of mind to prepare for the Deshang stage. Now there was only one road left to concentrate on cultivation, and ascending to heaven had become the ultimate pursuit. At this realm, if it was not necessary, there were no great benefits. Basically, the masters of the Deshang stage would focus on cultivation. Even the management of the sect seemed to be too lazy to intervene, unless it was someone who had an extremely strong desire for control. This was one of the reasons why most of the sect masters of the major sect were basically masters of the Yuanying stage. However, it seemed that with the emergence of Yang Chen, this situation had changed a lot. At least the sect masters of the 5 major sects were now all in the Deshang stage. Even the demon sects were like this. Others would not dare to say that the master of the Chunyang Palace had also been in the Deshang stage for many years. The world of the cultivators seemed to have changed a lot unconsciously. At least the 5th grade alchemist master that had never appeared in the mortal world before had appeared. At the same time, there were several new medicinal pills that had never been heard of and never seen before. Each of them had caused a burst of madness among the cultivators. And all of these were related to Yang Chen. Chapter 1373. In addition to consolidating his cultivation base, the rest of Yang Chen's time was spent on alchemy. Yang Chen has also begun to refine the entrance of the Immortal beheading platform, but this was a long process, and Yang Chen only needed to divide a little energy to maintain it. Before going out, it was better to refine some medicinal pills as a reserve. 5 revolutions questioning inner heart pill, 3 revolutions 4 revolutions chi and blood pill, 2nd revolutions 3 revolutions 7 emotions and 6 desires pill, each of which should be prepared. In addition to the use of his own family and the masters of the sect, it was also necessary to exchange some popularity and benefits with the outside world. He believed that this batch of medicinal pills would definitely trigger the craziness of the masters again. The rest of the time was spent in Yang Chen's family. Whether it was zither, chess, calligraphy, painting, or tea, wine, clothing and food, Yang Chen showed a very high level of appreciation, which made his wives and concubines happy, and their bodies and minds were even more comfortable. Even everyone had an illusion that if the days went on like this, without outsiders disturbing them, how good it would be. Of course, cultivation was essential, especially after Yang Chen refined the core of the demon continent. The demonic energy provided simply surprised the women. The rich demonic energy directly subverted their previous common sense. Every time they cultivated, they would be constantly tempered under the influence of the demonic energy. The demonic energy released from the core of the demon continent, even the 4 women who had experienced the experience of the demon continent and whose spiritual awareness had reached the 2nd grade of human immortal, could not fully bear it. Only after Yang Chen filtered it once, the 4 women could barely bear it, and then the remaining part was filtered by the 4 women, would be used by Shi Wushuang and the Murong sisters. The family was directly divided into 3 echelons. For the concubines who married later, Yang Chen did not treat them the same as his 4 wives. Although the method of spiritual power double cultivation had been practiced, the highest mystery Yin-Yang Heart Sutra of spiritual awareness double cultivation had not been practiced with them. Yang Chen's spiritual awareness cultivation base was not yet at the point of being easily exposed. Even his own concubines, Yang Chen did not let them know. Even for Yang Chen, it was not so easy to directly face the demonic energy emitted from the core of the demon continent. Fortunately, when Yang Chen's divine sense broke through the Great Ascension stage, it finally reached the 1st grade of the Earth Immortal realm, barely reaching the level of an ultimate demonized monster. In addition, the 9 nether flying sword bore a small part of the power, so Yang Chen was finally able to withstand it. This was not something that could be accomplished overnight. It was a long period of effort. In the early stages, it depended on habits, and in the later stages, it depended on making use of it. Yang Chen's family had plenty of time to slowly adapt and improve, so there was no rush at all. Time passed quickly, and in the blink of an eye, more than 30 years had passed. Yang Chen's family had completely consolidated their cultivation and started to improve. And Yang Chen's medicinal pills had also been saved, enough for a period of time. On this day, Yang Chen was enjoying the taste of the wine from Sun Qingshue's cherry mouth in his arms. Suddenly, the entire space of the Langya well seemed to begin to shake, and a burst of thunderous sounds rumbled directly into everyone's ears. Everyone in the Langya well heard these sounds and felt the movement. Everyone's faces were filled with joy. According to legend, this was the movement of the exit of the Langya well opening, and the day when everyone left the Langya well was not far away. Among the people who came in, among the masters who were still alive, at least half of them got 1 or 2 magic weapons, whether it was suitable or not. In short, they did not return empty-handed. The remaining half of the people who did not get what they wanted were glad that they could survive in such an environment. As for whether they found the treasure, it was not so important anymore. It couldn't be helped. Yang Chen's 6 concubines would come to harass them almost every once in a while. The experience of using them as a whetstone for combat experience had already made most people complain. Although they were only in the early and middle Deshang stage, Shi Wushuang and the Murong sisters made those opponents suffer almost every time. If they hadn't been merciful, these guys would have died many times already. Now that everyone finally saw the dawn of getting out of the sea of suffering, some of them who were not determined enough almost cried out loud. For more than 100 years, they were trapped in this ghost place. There was no way to go to heaven, and there was no door to the earth. There was no other choice but to be used as a whetstone, and they couldn't even find a place to hide. God had mercy on them. They finally had to leave. Yang Chen's family was really too overbearing. Not only did they sweep the 3 great danger zones, but they also did not let go of the Langya crystal ship. All of them were searched like locusts passing through. After this trip, there was no need to come back in the future. They couldn't find anything. Without the Langya crystal ship, they could only be trapped at the entrance of the Langya well. At this time, no one dared to express their happiness aloud. Who knew if the female stars of Yang Chen's family would be happy for them to leave? If he planned to bury everyone in there, and he alarmed them, it would not be worth it. Everyone was quietly hiding their excitement and happiness in their hearts, and then waited quietly. In the huge space, 8 shining beams of light suddenly rose. Looking at the direction, it was obviously a huge 8 trigrams. The light beam illuminated the entire space. They had not seen this kind of light for more than 100 years. The eyes of the masters scattered around the space were almost not used to it. When everyone's eyes stopped blinking quickly, they finally saw everything in front of them. No one said anything. Everyone's uniform action was to fly toward the nearest beam of light. Those who were close had already plunged into the beam of light. People in the distance only saw a flash of figures, and then they disappeared. This was the only way to get out of the space under the Langya well. Everyone rushed toward the beam of light one after another. Only Yang Chen's family was still leisurely watching this scene. All the girls were waiting for Yang Chen's decision. Yang Chen was the husband and the backbone of the girls. They would go wherever he said, and no one would disobey. Compared to those guys who had been living in the dark, Yang Chen's family lived in a dangerous place, and the Dragon Palace was always brightly lit. Seeing that almost everyone had left this space, Yang Chen kept the Dragon Palace, and slowly flew toward the nearest beam of light with the girls. When they were close to the beam of light, Yang Chen stopped and bowed in the direction of the ancestral master hall. The other girls also followed suit and bowed in greeting. Suddenly, a stream of light flashed in the air, and something flew over from the ancestral master hall. That thing came very fast, and in a short while, it was in front of Yang Chen. Yang Chen reached out and easily grabbed the thing in his hand. Before Yang Chen could carefully observe what it was, the beam of light not far away flashed suddenly, and the range expanded in an instant, enveloping Yang Chen's family. The light flashed, and the place where Yang Chen's family was originally at, suddenly became empty, and there was no one left. Chapter 1374. Yang Chen only felt that there was darkness in front of him, and his body suddenly entered a magical passage. Before he could feel the situation around him, his feet had already stepped on the ground. Immediately afterward, there were a few more people around him. It was his wives and concubines. Looking around, it was a relatively familiar scenery, at least the light was very familiar. Gong Sunling was the one who felt the terrain the most clearly, and immediately cried out softly, "We are out, this is more than 400 miles southwest of Languel." It was not surprising that the people who came out of Languel would be distributed within 1,000 miles of the area they had entered. However, what was going on with the guys who were fleeing frantically within hundreds of miles? "Husband, they are hiding from us." It was rare that the elder sister Murong Han, who had always been mature and prudent among the Murong sisters, reached out to cover her mouth and snickered. The other women, including Shi Wushuang, all had a proud expression on their faces. It seemed that in Languel, those people were really tossed around by them, otherwise they would not have put on such a fleeing posture. That was not leaving, it was clearly running for their lives. What was that just now? Shi Shanshan was not concerned about these, but the stream of light that was caught in Yang Chen's hand. As soon as she mentioned it, everyone's attention was focused and they all looked at Yang Chen. A bead! Yang Chen stretched out his hand and presented the bead in his hand to the women. 10 pairs of beautiful eyes instantly turned to this side. In Yang Chen's hand there was indeed a bead. It was not known what material the bead was made of. The whole body was round and crystal clear, as if the transparent surface could directly see the core of the bead. In the core part of the bead, there was an extremely delicate micro-carving, as if it was carved into something. The micro-carving was too small, even with the strength of the Deshang stage, they could not see what it was with their eyesight alone. Everyone unanimously penetrated their spiritual awareness into it. The strange thing was that the bead did not seem to resist at all, and it easily let everyone's spiritual awareness penetrate it. No way! Almost at the same time, a voice of doubt sounded in the hearts of all the women. No one dared to believe what their divine senses had detected. The interior of the bead was clearly a miniature version of the world under the Languel. Although Yang Chen and the 4 women had been in the impasse all these years, Shi Wushuang and the Murong sisters had almost run all over the space under Languel, so they would definitely not be wrong. Coincidentally, everyone thought of Yang Chen's final bow before he left the Languel. This bead was obviously thrown into Yang Chen's hands by the exterminated sect to thank him for this gift. Was her husband lucky, or was he really well-mannered? How could he have such a situation? With this bead in hand, it meant that the internal space of the Languel was now in the hands of Yang Chen. Whether the Languel would open in the future depended on Yang Chen's decision. Yang Chen was also sighing. Inexplicably, there was such a huge space with countless spiritual veins. Whether it was used as a cave house or a medicine garden, it seemed to be a little too big. The good things inside had basically been plundered by Yang Chen's family. It seemed that there was not much meaning in keeping this space. It was a complete surprise. Since it was in his hand, it could be said that it flew into his own hands on its own initiative, so there was absolutely no reason to send it back. Yang Chen thought a little and took the bead in front of Gong Sunling. "A Ling, try to see if the bead can be refined into the mountain river geographical map." Yang Chen was not afraid of the jealousy of the other women, and directly instructed, "After all, the terrain in the mountain river geographical map is illusory. After refining, it may be able to combine the illusory and real, and go to a higher level. No one would be jealous. The treasures in this bead have been collected." Now listening to Yang Chen's words about Gong Sunling, it was clear that this space was the most suitable for Gong Sunling to use. Since her husband thought that Gong Sunling was the most suitable, then she must be the most suitable. After so many years, in terms of vision, the women had a blind confidence in Yang Chen. Gong Sunling reached out without hesitation and then threw the bead into the mountain river geographical map, without thinking about it, and directly began the sacrificial refining. She was now in the Deshang stage, and it did not take too much time to sacrificial refine this level of magic weapon. The bead quickly merged into the mountain river geographical map. As Yang Chen said, the mountain river geographical map was all illusory. Although many people lived in it, they only lived in an illusion. But with this bead, it was immediately different. The mountain river geographical map was worthy of being a magic weapon of the Dragon Clan. Under the control of Gong Sunling, it quickly absorbed and merged everything in the space of Languel. The original illusory mountain river geographical map also began to slowly condense into a substance, and it was no longer a pure maze. The tens of thousands of miles of land was almost comparable to a small half of the Daosek's territory. Except for the spiritual vein in the bead, there was nothing else worthy of people's attention. Used in the mountain river geographical map, it seemed to have a feeling of a match made in heaven. Even Gong Sunling felt that the mountain river geographical map was much more solid in an instant, and its power was also slightly improved. My husband actually forgot these good things, thank you very much. Just when everyone was waiting for Gong Sunling's results, Gong Sunling's face suddenly showed a happy smile, as if she really got a lot of good things, and began to thank Yang Chen. Yang Chen was stunned. In this bead, or in the space of Languel, what else was there that the family didn't collect? Even the 3 great danger zones were searched, the underworld jade underground was dug out, and even the dragon spirit-devouring dragon fire and dragon scales were collected by Yang Chen. What else was there for Gong Sunling to be so happy? The other women were also confused. The good things were in their Qiankuan bags. What else was there that they missed? Ruo Shui, my husband, you forgot about Ruo Shui. Shi Wushuang's eyes suddenly lit up. She remembered Ruo Shui at the beginning, and hurriedly reminded. Yang Chen and the other women suddenly understood, because at the beginning, Yang Chen dealt with the dragon spirit and spirit-devouring dragon fire, and subconsciously ignored Ruo Shui. Later, when the Murong sisters went to collect the Langya crystal ship, they directly pulled it out from Ruo Shui. Everyone actually forgot that Ruo Shui was also of the highest quality. Gong Sunling covered her mouth with her delicate hand and smiled like a fox that had stolen a chicken. Her husband had always been the kind of person who took every possibility into account. Occasionally, there was a small negligence, and she caught it. The opportunity was too rare, and Gong Sunling could not help but be happy. My husband, I'll let Xiaoxue try to see if this Ruo Shui can be used to make wine. If it works, I'll let my husband have a taste. After entering the mountain river geographical map, it was Gong Sunling's thing, and Gong Sunling directly took it for herself. Chapter 1375. Using weak water to brew wine, it was estimated that only the women around Yang Chen could say it. Since the Languel, the weak water had been a natural protective layer of the Languel. Many masters were blocked outside and could not board the Langya crystal ship. But according to Gong Sunling, the weak water had now become the raw material for Yang Chen to brew wine. It was unknown how many liters of blood those guys outside the Langya crystal ship would vomit when they heard Gong Sunling's words, but one thing was certain: Gong Sunling had completely controlled the weak water. She dared not say that she had completely collected it, but since she had even integrated the entire space of the Languel, presumably the weak water should not be a problem for Gong Sunling. Looking at Gong Sunling's expression as if she had taken a big advantage, the women all smiled knowingly. Yang Chen's image in front of everyone had always been that of a meticulous plan, but this time he actually missed such an important thing. This alone was worth talking about. If you dare to use the water that has soaked the corpses, be careful that your husband will spank you. Yang Chen raised his eyebrows and began to threaten Gong Sunling. There were so many corpses in the weak water, it was disgusting to think about using them to brew wine. Those are only on the surface. Gong Sunling would not let her husband drink the wine brewed from the corpses, and hurriedly replied, "There is a source of weak water underground, it has been controlled by me, it is completely running water." This was more like it. Yang Chen nodded slightly, as a form of approval, and did not say much. Gong Sunling stuck out her tongue, made a face, and plunged into Yang Chen's chest. After washing it with running water for a few years, choose some essence and make tea for me. Sure Shanshan was not polite, and directly asked Gong Sunling for it. The other women also followed suit. If they had money, they would get half of it. They asked Gong Sunling to provide weak water to share. Gong Sunling was very generous. With a wave of her hand, she agreed to everything. Of course, they had to trouble Sun Qingxue to brew the wine, while Sure Shanshan was responsible for making the tea. Gong Sunling was only responsible for providing the water. Up until now, the Languel had been completely plundered by Yang Chen's family. Not only had everything inside been taken away, but the entire space had also been taken away, leaving nothing for the future generations. Coming out of the Languel was a small reward, and the girls were very happy. Especially during this period of time in the Languel, everyone had great gains. Not to mention external possessions, even their cultivation had improved, which was worthy of celebration. One must know that the advancement of everyone's cultivation was not an illusory feeling, but a real and visible improvement. Needless to say, Yang Chen and his 4 wives were promoted from the Yuanying stage to the Deshang stage, and all his 7 concubines were promoted. Tao Junqi was the most improved, and she directly ascended, and there was no one stronger than her. Shi Wushuang was promoted from the early Deshang stage to the peak of the early Deshang stage, and she would soon enter the middle Deshang stage. The Murong sisters directly changed their life source magic weapons, and they were also close to the edge of the breakthrough. Not to mention anything else, just their combat experience was much richer than before they came in. Even without the sky measuring ruler, Yang Chen could feel the improvement of the cultivation of the people around him. This was Yang Chen's plan, and Yang Chen was very satisfied with it. For more than 100 years, the family had been in the Languel, and they didn't know what the situation outside was now. But in any case, everyone was an important figure in their respective sect. In any case, they had to go back to their respective sect. Cultivators did not pay attention to so much love and reluctance. Since they had to go back to their sect, Yang Chen was not unreasonable. He waved his hand, and everyone separated and went back to their own homes to find their mothers. If there was nothing else, everyone would meet again in the Chunyang Palace after 10 years. No matter what happens, you just have to remember to follow the sect master of your own sect. Don't think about anything else. Before the separation, Yang Chen didn't know why, but he suddenly said such a sentence to everyone. No one understood what Yang Chen meant, but this sentence seemed to be right from any point of view. What was wrong with following their own sect master? Everyone nodded, remembered Yang Chen's words, and then separated. After watching everyone leave, Yang Chen did not immediately rush back to the Chunyang Palace with Gao Yu and Gong Sunling. Instead, he sent the 2 women to go first, and he left. "Where are you going, husband?" Gao Yu asked inexplicably, and Gong Sunling was also confused. "I'm going to the Taishaman sect first." Yang Chen explained with a smile. "Junqi has ascended. It's reasonable for me to go and tell her. You go back to the Chunyang Palace first. I'll go back immediately after I inform the Taishaman sect." Tao Junqi was Yang Chen's concubine, and she ascended when she left with Yang Chen. Naturally, it was Yang Chen's husband who should inform Tao Junqi's sect. This was courtesy. Of course, Yang Chen had another purpose to go to the Taishaman sect, but it was not suitable to tell the 2 women. Yang Chen went to the Taishaman sect deliberately because he wanted to see the current situation of the Universe Wuji Spirit Stabilizer formation and see if it was almost time to launch. Tao Junqi's ascension was the best cover. He swaggered over to inquire about the news, and the Taishaman had to treat him like a guest of honor. Sure enough, as Yang Chen expected, when Yang Chen went to the Taishaman sect to pay a visit, he was received by the Taishaman sect with an unusually grand reception. Sect Master Li, who received the news of Yang Chen's visit, personally brought 2 core elders to the door of the Taishaman sect's reception hall to greet Yang Chen, almost putting on the standard of receiving the sect masters of the 5 major sects. Congratulations, Master Yang, you have successfully crossed the tribulation and ascended to the Deshang stage. The day of ascension is just around the corner. As soon as they met, everyone in the Taishaman sect found that Yang Chen had entered the Deshang stage, and all of them congratulated him. At the same time, some people were also secretly happy. Yang Chen had entered the Deshang stage. Wouldn't he be able to refine better medicinal pills faster? I came here specially to congratulate Sect Master Li. After the greetings between the guests and the host, Yang Chen said the purpose of this trip: your sect's fairy junkie has successfully crossed the tribulation and ascended in the Languel. Taishaman has another Dao confirming master, congratulations. Same to you. Although the Taishaman sect could already guess Tao Junkie's ascension, after all, there was no confirmation from Yang Chen's own eyes. Now that it was 100% certain that Tao Junkie had ascended, Sect Master Li was naturally happy and congratulated Yang Chen. After all, in the end, Tao Junkie was a disciple of the Taishaman sect, but in private, she was Yang Chen's woman, which was a happy event for both sides. The sect's reception hall was naturally within the core area of the mountain gate. It was absolutely possible to clearly feel the changes in the universe everlasting spirit suppressing formation. Yang Chen talked happily with the people of the Greatest Heaven sect, but at the same time, he separated a wisp of spiritual awareness and quietly explored. Chapter 1376. Within the mountain gate of Taishaman, especially in this core area, the richness of the spiritual power was beyond imagination. This level of spiritual power, even if it was Taishaman, it could not be concealed. In this regard, Taishaman could only explain it with a secret spiritual power compression formation of the sect. Just when the Supreme Elders began to cultivate crazily and needed a lot of spiritual power, although the major sect had not yet reached the point of being overwhelmed, they had taken care of the Supreme Masters of their respective sect. All of them did their best to meet their needs, and various methods emerged one after another. The Taishaman used this statement to cover up, but it was not unacceptable. For Yang Chen, the Taishaman's current attitude was to win him over as much as possible. With the relationship of Tao Junkie, Yang Chen gave face to the cooperation in the aspect of medicinal pills, and the two sides maintained a state of good. Yang Chen's hatred for Taishaman had never been shown externally, and Taishaman seemed to have forgotten the various disagreements of the previous Taishaman disciples against Yang Chen. In the view of Taishaman, this was the performance of Yang Chen's understanding of the current situation. Since Yang Chen gave face and knew the current situation, then the Taishaman would naturally not take the initiative to mention those unpleasant things. The two sides tacitly formed a situation of letting bygones be bygones, seeking common ground and keeping small differences, and looking at a higher realm together. After all, life still has to go on, right? After the grand reception, Yang Chen was also allowed to go to Tao Junkie's original boudoir and gave some benefits to the servants who had served Tao Junkie before dismissing them. Tao Junkie had already ascended, and naturally, it was impossible to take them with her. Yang Chen's move was also to solve the worries of his woman. In addition to settling the servants, the personal belongings left by Tao Junkie in the sect could also be taken away by Yang Chen, and no one had any objections. In addition, some of Tao Junkie's sect friends, Yang Chen did not forget to visit, and by the way, he gave a second-grade inner sensing pill as a gift. Yang Chen's generosity also drew praise from these people. All of this was done openly. Other than a disciple who was in charge of guiding them, no one else paid attention to it. Of course, Yang Chen did not care how many people were secretly monitoring him. He now wanted to walk around the interior of Taishaman so that he could explore more about the situation of the universe limitless original suppression formation. He cleaned up Tao Junkie's mess for a few days, but it didn't arouse any suspicion from the Taishanmen. After a few days, it was enough for Yang Chen to have a sufficient understanding of the situation of the formation. Yang Chen was the one who taught the heaven and earth limitless origin suppressing formation to Li Liheng. No one understood it better than Yang Chen. For a long time, the impression that Yang Chen gave people was that he was an alchemy grandmaster, the only fifth-grade alchemy master in the mortal world. Others never knew that Yang Chen was also a formation master. Yang Chen has never shown his talent in the formation in front of outsiders. Even when he used the formation in the illusion of the heaven ladder to break the formation, he only used one of those profound formations to make it difficult for the 10 Jidan stage masters who set up the formation. The follow-up things have never been seen at all. Even Gong Sunling only knew that Yang Chen had entered a few complex formations, and did not know Yang Chen's attainments in the formation. Even if he was not particularly specialized in the formation, Yang Chen's experience as a great principal golden immortal was more than enough to serve as a formation master in the mortal world and the spiritual world. The heaven and earth limitless origin suppressing formation was the formation of the spiritual world. Yang Chen even saw the formation set up in the spiritual world with his own eyes. Therefore, the current state of the formation Yang Chen was very clear. The Taishanmen definitely put in a lot of effort. He didn't know where they had arranged the scope of the formation. Anyway, according to Yang Chen's estimation, it was impossible for the spiritual power to be so rich in the territory of the Dao sects. It was very likely that the Taishanmen had already included the scope of the formation in the territory of the Monster Clan and the Demon Sect, and it might even have expanded to overseas. For Yang Chen, the larger the Taishanmen expanded the scope of the formation, the more satisfied Yang Chen was. This also meant that the more people the Taishanmen would offend in the future, the more enemies they would have. The current heaven and earth limitless origin suppressing formation had reached the point of complete formation. The complete formation not only included the completion of the arrangement of the formation, but also indicated that the spiritual power absorption had reached a sufficient level to launch the special formation I. It was just that no one had launched it yet. The Taishanmen were indeed solid in their work. From the time Yang Chen handed the formation to Li Liheng until now, they basically didn't waste much time, and completely met Yang Chen's expectations. Next, they were waiting for a fuse to be lit, and then the moment when the Taishanmen became the target of public criticism. Yang Chen looked at all of this with satisfaction, and then left the Taishanmen slowly. Before leaving, Yang Chen showed enough respect for the Taishanmen. He walked from Tao Junkie's boudoir, where he lived, all the way to the gate of the Taishanmen's mountain. This action made the higher-ups of the Taishanmen nod their heads repeatedly. In their hearts, Yang Chen must have been influenced by Tao Junkie, and then he also knew the hidden strength of the Taishanmen, so he acted like he was lowering his head. What they didn't know was that Yang Chen's action beyond politeness and respect was just a moment of silence for the Taishanmen. When Yang Chen was an executioner himself, he had to say that every injustice has its perpetrator, and every debt has its debtor. Later, when he killed people, it became a habit. Now, these were just catchphrases that had changed in flavor. Death was the most important thing, so what was it to give them a little more respect before they died? During the days when Yang Chen lingered in the Taishanmen, Yang Chen had not seen Li Liheng. He once pretended to ask one of Tao Junkie's servants by accident, and the news he got was that the young sect master had not appeared in public for a long time, and it was said that he had been concentrating on cultivation. Yang Chen was very satisfied with Li Liheng's diligent cultivation attitude, because Li Liheng was not diligently cultivating his spiritual transcendence cultivation technique, but the Freedom Demon Heart Sutra. The mental cultivation method of the demon sects was not so easy to get rid of. The more one cultivated, the more addicted one would be. Yang Chen knew this very well. Without seeing Li Liheng, Yang Chen naturally had no chance to see Yang Lan. With Yang Chen's understanding of Yang Lan, this former fellow villager, now his life and death enemy, must also be working hard to accompany the young sect master to cultivate, quietly waiting for his own opportunity to come. When Yang Chen thought that he would not see Yang Lan on this trip to Taishimen, Yang Lan himself appeared in front of Yang Chen. Just when Yang Chen was about to reach the mountain gate of Taishimen, Yang Chen saw Yang Lan's figure. Now Yang Lan, where was the decadence of the past? He was completely high-spirited. He stood quietly on the road that Yang Chen had to pass, smiling and waiting for Yang Chen. Chapter 1377. Master Yang, long time no see. I haven't seen him for hundreds of years, but Yang Lan looks more and more comfortable. However, no matter how you listen to this greeting, it seems that he is biting his teeth and saying it. Thanks to young Master Yang, I have been doing well these years. Yang Chen replied with a smile, as if he didn't feel the hatred in Yang Lan's tone at all. It's good that you're good, so that when I want to do it one day, you won't be able to feel the taste carefully. Yang Lan's face has always maintained that kind of genial smile, and he and Yang Chen have the same expression as a close friend chatting. If you don't listen to what he said, looking from a distance, this was definitely two friends chatting intimately. It seems that my reward outside is a little low. How could Yang Chen show weakness verbally? His eyes became more and more curved, and he replied, well, I will hang 10 3-grade questioning inner heart pills later to see if anyone is interested. If you don't want to die, just hide in your kennel and never come out. This reward directly shocked Yang Lan. Don't look at Yang Lan's current success. He was also the #1 lackey around the young sect master. Within the Taishimen, almost everyone would call him Steward Yang. However, this reward of Yang Chen still made him extremely frightened. The 2nd-grade questioning inner heart pill has already made a large number of Deshang stage masters scramble for it. Needless to say, the 3rd-grade questioning inner heart pill was definitely a good thing for people to fight for. Not to mention outsiders, even among the Taishimen, there would definitely be countless people who would be tempted. Between a young sect master's lackey and 10 3-grade questioning inner heart pills, those masters of the Deshang stage would definitely choose the questioning inner heart pill without hesitation. A junior in the Yuanying stage, he was not a genius disciple. He relied on sending his sister to the young sect master to exchange for the opportunity to form his nascent soul. If this kind of person died, then he died. Who would care? Not to mention these masters of the Deshang stage, even Li Liheng would not care. In the past, Yang Lan was used to let him run the cauldron of the Free Demon Heart Sutra. Now his Free Demon Heart Sutra has enough cauldrons, and his cultivation has enough foundation. With or without Yang Lan, there is really no difference. If Li Liheng knew that Yang Chen offered a reward of 10 3-grade questioning inner heart pills, maybe he would directly kill Yang Lan to receive the reward. Yang Chen only used one sentence and let Yang Lan's cold sweat gurgle down. Over the years, Yang Chen continued to improve his reward. Although no one dared to provoke him in the sect, when Yang Lan was alone, he would never of it easily. Even if he went out, there would be a large number of masters accompanying him of people. He was simply trapped by Yang Chen. Especially in the recent 100 or 200 years, the attitude of the greatest heaven sect towards Yang Chen has changed from resistance to assassination to cooperation. In addition to secretly starting, it was impossible for Yang Lan to deal with Yang Chen openly. This feeling made Yang Lan more and more uncomfortable. Every time he thought of Yang Chen, he always looked like he was gnashing his teeth. Now Yang Chen actually used this way to threaten Yang Lan again. This was unbearable. What was unbearable? Yang Lan had endured for hundreds of years, and he didn't want to endure it anymore. The universe everlasting spirit suppressing formation had been fully opened. As long as he found a good opportunity, he could easily break through the Deshang stage and ascend. At that time, what would happen to Yang Chen? Yang Lan's calculation was very good. At that time, Yang Chen would definitely become a scapegoat for him to kill Li Liheng. When Yang Chen was chased by people all over the world, his uncle Yang Lan would ascend with his sister in the dumbfounded eyes of countless people. How comfortable was that? What he was most proud of was this. Yang Lan knew the news from Li Liheng's mouth. No one knew about the special formation eye. He could completely enjoy it in the sect without taking any risk. When I ascend one day, I will definitely give you a stick of incense when I arrive in the spiritual world. Thinking of this, Yang Lan's waist also straightened up. If he didn't go out, then he wouldn't go out. Would someone really dare to rush into the Taishaman and make a move? Even if there was, could these guys break through the demon seal of Taishaman? This is also thanks to Master Yang's blessing. Taishaman bought a demon seal. Yang Lan said triumphantly. Even if someone wants to do it, as long as I don't go out, who can do anything to me? Yang Lan had no choice. With the demon seal, everything was fine. In particular, this demon seal was sold by Yang Chen, which made the conversation between the two have a kind of karma cycle. Of course, Yang Lan's fearlessness would certainly not last long. The arrangement to kill Li Liheng had to be implemented in the near future. Every time he met Yang Chen, there was no good thing. Even his own arrangements were interrupted. From this point of view, Yang Chen could be said to be deliberately bad for Yang Lan's good things every time. Oh! Yang Chen was a little surprised. He seemed to not believe it. At the same time, there was a kind of joke in his mind. He looked up and down at Yang Lan for a long time before he suddenly smiled and said, "You don't even dare to come out of the sect's demon seal. Do you really think that heaven's retribution will come to you through the demon seal?" As soon as Yang Chen's words came out, Yang Lan, who was laughing proudly, seemed to be suddenly strangled by his neck. Suddenly, he made a sound and could no longer say half a word. Yang Lan's plan seemed to be comprehensive, but he forgot that he couldn't attract heaven's retribution in the demon seal. There was no heaven's retribution, and naturally, there was no ascension. Everything Yang Lan said was simply a mirage. Even if the formation eye of the universe everlasting spirit suppressing formation was magical, it was impossible to let Yang Lan ascend without crossing the retribution. It's just a small matter, don't worry about it. Although he was frightened in his heart, Yang Lan didn't show anything on his face. He just responded faintly, "Master Yang, please go well. Forgive me for not seeing you off." Looking at Yang Lan's stubborn performance, Yang Chen almost wanted to laugh in his heart. He was still worried about how to break through the demon seal of the Taishanman, and whether it was necessary to expose his own weapons, but now it seemed completely unnecessary. Not to mention anything else, Yang Lan alone could turn the Taishanman upside down for him. Maybe in the future, the destruction of the Taishanman would depend on Yang Lan's performance. How could Yang Chen not look forward to it more and more? "Take care." Yang Lan smiled coldly and said goodbye. He whispered in his mouth, "You are lucky that I didn't kill you this time. Don't go." Yang Chen also responded hypocritically. He smiled and replied in a low voice, "My luck is not too good. Otherwise, why didn't I meet Elder Ming or Elder Lu?" As he spoke, Yang Chen had already stepped away from here, leaving only a series of laughter. However, this laughter stopped in Yang Lan's ears, but it was like a funeral bell. How did Yang Chen know about Elder Ming and Elder Lu? Chapter 1378. Ming Guangrua and the Great Elder were secretly sent by Yang Lan. Except for a few people who participated and Yang Lan, no outsiders knew about it. According to Yang Lan's plan, if Yang Chen was found by the people he sent, there would only be one end, and that was to die on the spot. However, Yang Chen was standing in front of him. From a general point of view, this could only mean that Yang Chen did not meet Elder Ming and the others. However, if he did not meet Elder Ming, how would Yang Chen know about them? This could only mean that things had changed, and it was still in the direction that Yang Lan did not expect. A great elder, plus 4 or 5 Deshang stage elders, if such a force was damaged, Not to mention that Yang Lan was just a lackey, even his master, the young sect master Li Liheng, could not shoulder such a big responsibility. It must be known that Yang Lan sent Ming Guangrua and the others, but it was a sneaky matter in private. He did not inform Li Liheng, nor did he inform the sect. It could be said that Ming Guangrua and the others were at Yang Lan's request. If this matter was successful, it would be fine. If it failed, they would lose manpower. Not to mention the sect's attitude towards Yang Chen. Just the loss of these masters was enough to let the people of the torture hall grind Yang Lan's bones and scatter his ashes. Now, what Yang Lan wanted to do most was not to show his superiority in front of Yang Chen, but to rush to the Chuaning Hall to see if Elder Ming and the others' life source tablets were still there. Although the Great Elder's life source tablets had already been taken back, and it was impossible to know the result, as long as they knew the life source tablets of Elder Ming, they could know the seriousness of the matter. Looking at Yang Lan, who left in a hurry, Yang Chen's face also showed a playful smile. Yang Lan's appearance simply gave Yang Chen a chance to quietly bury a big bomb inside the Taishaman. After Yang Chen sold the Demon Seal array, the major sects basically arranged this large array in the mountain gate. Although everyone's main purpose was to block the tribulation, the excellent protective ability of the Demon Seal array still made a group of consumers talk about it. If they wanted to destroy the Taishaman, they had to consider the Demon Sealing formation. At that time, it was a complete accident that they got the Demon Sealing formation. If Yang Chen and Chunyang Palace took it for themselves, they would be suppressed by many big sects. So, they could only take advantage of the situation and sell the Demon Sealing formation. But now, the Demon Sealing array had become a protective umbrella for the Taishaman. If there was no other way, Yang Chen would have to sneakily break the Demon Sealing array. But no matter how secretive it was, there would always be signs to follow. If people knew that it was Yang Chen who was behind it, there would be fewer opportunities to plot against him. Yang Chen was not invincible. Yang Chen had a clear understanding of this. It was still beyond Yang Chen's power to fight against the number one sect of the Tao sect alone. Even if it was in the mortal world, he might be able to take revenge once, but what about after ascending? It must be known that the biggest reliance of the Taishaman was the Jade Emperor of the Heavenly Court. Yang Chen's ultimate goal was also that guy. It was not wise to expose it now. It was different with Yang Lan, especially when he knew that he could not go out to cross the tribulation at will. Yang Lan would do everything possible to let the tribulation come. Yang Chen had long said that the best way to deal with the Demon Seal array was to break it from the inside, and Yang Lan fully had such conditions. Using the Heaven and Earth Infinite Spirit Suppression formation was an opportunity for Yang Lan, but it was also a crisis. If he used it well, Yang Lan could be said to be a test subject for his young master, so that even after ascending, he could still eat and drink in the Xiantian sect of the spiritual world. But if he used it badly, it was equivalent to directly betraying the sect and being chased by the Taishaman. Therefore, in order to avoid the worst results, Yang Lan would do his best to break the blockade of the Demon Seal array. For this point, Yang Chen had never doubted it. In his previous life, Yang Lan had always played with the Taishaman. This was simply a natural assistant to Yang Chen, and it would also attract all the attention and bear all the responsibility for the destruction of the Demon Seal array. Yang Chen could even help him secretly. Presumably, the Taishaman at that time would be very good to watch. The trip to Taishaman was successfully completed. Yang Chen left contentedly and rushed back to Chunyang Palace. At this time, Yang Lan had already rushed to the Chuaning Hall. "Steward Yang? How come you have time to visit today?" Seeing Yang Lan's hurried figure, the disciple on duty of the Chuaning Hall stepped forward and bowed to greet him. "Find me Elder Ming Guangrua's life tablet immediately." Yang Lan didn't care about the entanglement with an ordinary disciple, and ordered calmly. "Hey, Steward Yang, wait a moment." The disciple on duty saw that Yang Lan's face was not good, and didn't dare to say anything. He hurriedly agreed, and then quickly found Ming Guangrua's tablet among the thousands of life tablet. Looking at the intact Elder Ming's life tablet, Yang Lan let out a long sigh, and his heart that was hanging in his throat fell back into his stomach. Fortunately, Elder Ming was fine. Yang Chun, that guy, was bluffing. He thought that he was really powerful, and he was scared into a cold sweat. Now that the rain had passed, if Elder Ming was fine, then the next person to be in trouble would be Yang Chun. It was estimated that Tao Junkie met Elder Ming, and the ascension was imminent. Elder Ming and Elder Lu were embarrassed to kill each other, so they didn't make a move. Tao Junkie asked for a favor, so Yang Chun could be free until now. After understanding this truth, a bright smile appeared on Yang Lan's face. Yang Lan's smile made the disciple on duty next to him calm down. It seemed that this was a little flattering to Steward Yang. As long as he could often make Steward Yang in a good mood, when the young sect master took over the sect in the future, the benefits would be endless. Giving the disciple on duty a satisfied look, Yang Lan slowly left the Chuaning Hall, and it was like a different person from the previous hurried appearance. However, the seemingly calm Yang Lan's heart had already begun to set off another uproar. Yang Chun was right. If he didn't break the demonic seal, what should he do? Using the special eye of the formation would definitely cause serious consequences. Although he could use the excuse of doing experiments for the young sect master, the premise was that the young sect master couldn't refute. In other words, at that time Li Liheng had to die. Even if Yang Lan wanted to explain, he could only go to the spiritual world to explain. Otherwise, within the Taishaman, he would be killed on the spot by the angry Taishaman higher-ups. Therefore, it was impossible for Yang Lan to let the sect let him quietly ascend. For now, it seemed that he could only find a way to solve the demonic seal. It seemed that Yang Chun said that if he wanted to break the demonic seal, there was only a pincer attack from the inside and outside. There was no other way. Chapter 1379. No matter how Yang Lan racked his brain, Yang Chun was now on his way back to Chunyang Palace. After not returning to the sect for more than 100 years, Yang Chun even had a feeling of going home. Chunyang Palace had 3 more masters of the Deshang stage, which was definitely a big event. Originally a small second-rate sect, there were only 8 Yuanying stage ancestors. In just a few hundred years, it has now developed into a big sect with more than a dozen masters of the Deshang stage and thousands of Yuanying stage ancestors. People had to admire the speed of expansion of Chunyang Palace. All of this seemed to be related to Yang Chun. When Gao Yugong, Sunling and Yang Chun returned to Chunyang Palace one after another, they were welcomed by the high-level members of the sect headed by the head of the palace. In the hundreds of years that Yang Chun was absent, Chunyang Palace had added 8 masters of the Deshang stage, all of whom were from the Hall of Eccentrics and Loyal. Now, no one dared to underestimate the Chunyang Palace. Even if it was the Taishaman, if they wanted to destroy the Chunyang Palace, they had to carefully weigh it. The current Chunyang Palace was already a behemoth, and its territory was 10 times larger than before. The small sect around Meiqing Mountain had been annexed by Chunyang Palace. Whether it was financial resources or manpower, Chunyang Palace had properly become the leader of the first-class sect, and its strength was only ranked behind those super-big sects. The core of the sect was still the elders headed by the head of the palace. The original 8 elders had now been promoted to the Deshang stage. At the same time, under the effect of Yang Chen's merit-refining body pill, the acquired spirit root had been greatly improved, and there was no longer the difficulty of cultivation. It was only a matter of time before they entered the Deshang stage or even ascended. However, in the hearts of the head of the palace and the elders, there had always been a thorn buried, that was, the behavior of the Taishaman against the Chunyang Palace. If Yang Chun hadn't discovered it early, maybe the entire foundation of Chunyang Palace would have been in the hands of Liang Xiaoming and become the peripheral lackey of Taishaman. These things were limited to the core executives and Yang Chun, and even Gao Yu was not particularly clear. She only knew that Yang Chen didn't have a good impression of the Taishanmen, but it wasn't to the point where he wanted to destroy the Taishanmen. Yang Chen didn't want her to bear more hatred in this life. Yang Chen would bear all of it. Gao Yu just needed to enjoy it. Over the past 100 years, not many major events had taken place. The only thing that had happened was the expansion of their respective sects. However, there was a common worry. Because of the emergence of the Demon Seal formation, the elders of the 5 major sects of the basic mountain had to cultivate at will, so that there was some tension in the supply of spiritual power in the sect. Now the value of spirit stones was at least twice as expensive as it was 100 years ago. Gao Yu and Gong Sunling of course lived with Yang Chen. In the Dragon Palace, they could chat casually without being afraid of being heard. Ling, how is Li Junyu now? Yang Chen sat at the edge of the jade table in the Dragon Palace and enjoyed the food of Gao Yu and Gong Sunling together with Gong Sunling, and asked while eating. Li Junyu was the Yuanying stage elder of the Green Jade, Immortal Island, and the elder of the Taishanmen Li Qinchen. In order to stand up for her younger generation, she wanted to assassinate Yang Chen, but she was directly received by Yang Chen into the Mountain River geographical map. She was also the first master trapped in the Mountain River geographical map. At that time, Li Junyu alone bore all the power of the Mountain River geographical map. Although the Mountain River geographical map only had the sea map of the East China Sea, Li Junyu could no longer bear it. She was delirious and became a madman who only knew how to cultivate and chase. When Yang Chen was in the Languel, he asked Gong Sunling to deal with Li Junyu. In the Mountain River geographical map, Gong Sunling was the master. After many years, Li Junyu's mind was almost completely destroyed. This was exactly the effect that Yang Chen needed. Gong Sunling directly released Li Junyu. In the face of Yang Chen's trio, Li Junyu also looked stupid, as if she had become a fool. Next, Yang Chen did not let Gao Yu and Gong Sunling participate, but took Li Junyu away by himself. The powerful spiritual awareness of the Earth Immortal Grade 1 easily implanted what Yang Chen needed into Li Junyu's mind. After Yang Chen's treatment, Li Junyu had become another appearance. The Yuanying stage elder, who was originally high and mighty, now seemed to have been ravaged by something. Her cultivation base was almost half, and even her life was half left. 2 years passed in a blink of an eye. Nothing seemed to have changed, and it developed step by step. The Taoists, fiends, and demons maintained a tacit balance, as though they were accumulating their strength with all their might. An elder of the Holocaust sect, in an accidental experience, found a crazy woman in the territory of the Tao sects. To be exact, it was near Taishanmen. The demon sects often had some experiences against the Tao sects, so it was not surprising that she appeared in the territory of the Tao sects. The woman who was discovered, looking at the traces of her cultivation base, should have been a Yuanying stage master, but now she only had half of her life left, and her mouth kept saying these nonsense. If you listen carefully, it seems that the words Taishanmen occasionally came out of her mouth. It was related to Taishanmen. The elder of the Holocaust sect was overjoyed. When he was about to listen carefully, he happened to meet the great elder of Yin Yang Demon School, Lady Fanghua. As a result, one person's secret became two people's. After listening carefully to the words of the crazy woman, both of them changed their faces. The crazy woman's mouth actually spat out a kind of cultivation method of the demon sects, the Free Demon Heart Sutra. Even in the demon sects, the Free Demon Heart Sutra was an evil cultivation method that was not recognized by people. In the words of this crazy woman, it seemed that there were Taishanmen disciples who were practicing this evil cultivation method. She is a person from the Green Jade, Immortal Island. Lady Fanghua did not dare to judge, but from the remaining cultivation base of Li Junyu, she judged Li Junyu's sect. How could the Yuanying stage master of the Green Jade, Immortal Island fall to this point? This scene didn't need the two people to guess much. Combined with the Free Demon Heart Sutra in Li Junyu's mouth, It could be seen at a glance that she must have been used as a furnace to cultivate the Free Demon Heart Sutra. The people of Taishaman would actually cultivate the Free Demon Heart Sutra, and they actually used the people of the Green Jade Immortal Island as a furnace. This was a big problem among the cultivators in these years, especially among the female cultivators. There were many missing masters, demons and demons. The elder of the Holocaust sect and Lady Fanghua also came out to find the missing masters of their own sect. They thought that they were killed by the Tao sects, but seeing the situation of Li Junyu, they seemed to have some other ideas. Show your identity and take her to the Green Jade Immortal Island. Lady Fanghua was definitely a decisive character. After realizing that there might be a big problem, she immediately made a decision to visit the Green Jade Immortal Island. She believed that the people of the Green Jade Immortal Island would also want to know what was going on with Li Junyu. Chapter 1380. Even if the Taoists and the demons were at odds, when Lady Fanghua and Elder Zhao of the Bloodlust sect swaggered their identity to the Green Jade Immortal Island, the Green Jade Immortal Island had to follow the rules and put on a welcoming appearance to welcome the two in. When the two countries fought, they would not kill the envoys. This was the rule of the secular mortals. Even the mortals had such a bearing, let alone the cultivators who claimed to be superior. The people who came were the great elders of the Yin-Yang Demon School and an ordinary elder of the Bloodlust sect. The Green Jade Immortal Island also sent an equivalent reception team. Elder Min Huafeng and Elder Guan Yueying were responsible for the reception this time. Guan Yueying was originally responsible for sitting at the gate of the sect. There were a lot of greetings, and the etiquette was very in place. Elder Min was now the most powerful elder in the sect besides the Lord of Tantai. It could be said that she gave enough face to Lady Fanghua. However, in the subsequent meeting, Lady Fanghua and Elder Zhao unanimously requested the presence of the Lord of Tantai and several other core elders. They only said that there was a major event to tell the Green Jade Immortal Island, but before the arrival of the Island Master and several other core elders, no one would say it. Especially Lady Fanghua, directly in front of Elder Min and Elder Guan, she made a heart oath, guaranteeing that it was definitely a big event, and she must meet the Island Master. The great elder of the Yin-Yang Demon sect insisted on seeing the Island Master. This request was really confusing, but Madame Fanghua's heart demon oath gave everyone a peace of mind. Since they must see her, then they would see her and see what she was trying to do. Lord of Tantai, please forgive me for my rudeness, it is really a matter of great importance. Lady Fanghua's posture was extremely low, and her words were sincere, but the meaning was very firm. I also ask the Island Master to dismiss the idlers. He had invited the Lord of Tantai and a group of elders over, and now he wanted the Island Master to dismiss the idlers. Was he toying with them? Elder Min almost lost her temper on the spot. She stared at Lady Fanghua's face with eyes that were about to spit fire, but she managed to hold it in. The Lord of Tantai also stared into Lady Fanghua's eyes, as if he wanted to see something from them. Lady Fanghua didn't show any sign of guilt. On the contrary, Elder Zhao from the Holocaust sect was sweating profusely and his body was trembling slightly. Elder Zhao was just an ordinary elder, and he was still in the Yuanying stage. In the face of so many Deshang stage masters of the Green Jade Immortal Island, it was impossible for him not to be afraid. Especially when he saw Lady Fanghua's request, he almost had the urge to turn around and run. After this atmosphere lasted for a while, the Lord of Tantai looked at Lady Fanghua's persistent look and finally nodded slightly. With a wave of his hand, the junior disciples who served first retreated. Seeing that Lady Fanghua was still calm and collected, he waved his hand to let several non-core elders, including Guan Yueying, retreat. Until this moment, Lady Fanghua showed a satisfied look and said with a smile, "Please place a few restrictions." Since it was a confidential matter, it was normal to place a few restrictions. Without the Lord of Tantai doing anything, several elders made their moves one after another. Each person arranged 2 restrictions, and then everyone sat waiting for Lady Fanghua to give an explanation to everyone. Fellow Daoist Zhao, let the person out. At this moment, Lady Fanghua said to Elder Zhao of the Holocaust sect. Elder Zhao nodded hurriedly. So many Deshang stage masters had already made him very uncomfortable, and he couldn't wait to be freed immediately. But before he started, Lady Fanghua still added a sentence to the Lord of Tantai Island Master, Elders. This person may be from the Green Jade Immortal Island, we are not sure. However, this matter has nothing to do with us, we just happened to meet this person and brought him over. This explanation made the Lord of Tantai and several elders more and more confused. What was it that made Lady Fanghua, the great elder of the Yin-Yang Demon School, so cautious? However, they would know the result soon, and there was no hurry to ask. Elder Zhao quickly released Li Junyu from his own portable medicine garden, and then immediately returned to his original position, without saying a word, waiting for the people of the Green Jade Immortal Island to figure out the situation first. Li Junyu's appearance, the high-level members of the Green Jade Immortal Island who were present could hardly recognize her. However, the unique spiritual power of the Green Jade Immortal Island made people recognize her as a disciple of the Green Jade Immortal Island. What did you do to her? Immediately, an elder burst into anger and rushed forward to question Lady Fanghua. I said, we just happened to meet this person, this matter has nothing to do with us. Lady Fanghua sat still in the same place, but her mouth also broke into a shout. His voice was already filled with an intimidating aura of 1,000 red spells. The voice of Lady Fanghua entered the ears, with a calming power that made people calm down involuntarily. Everyone in the Green Jade Immortal Island was shocked. No wonder Lady Fanghua's reputation has skyrocketed over the years, she really had two skills. The elder who had just shouted also calmed down, and he felt a little rash. She just said that there was a promise, why couldn't he restrain his anger? Thinking about it carefully, it may be that the kind of peerless beauty of Lady Fanghua made her feel a little ashamed? It should be Elder Li Junyu. After a while, someone finally recognized the identity of Li Junyu, and the intermittent words in her mouth were slowly understood by some people. After hearing the Free Demon Heart Sutra and Taishinman, everyone's face changed. Free Demon Heart Sutra? Madam, what is the use of this Free Demon Heart Sutra? Including the Lord Tantai, the core high-level members of the Green Jade Immortal Island did not have much understanding of the Free Demon Heart Sutra, just like the high-level members of the Taishinman were not very clear. Everyone only knew that it was a demonic art, but no one knew the specific situation. Lady Fanghua was an elder of the demon sect, and naturally, she had some knowledge of this cultivation method. However, she didn't explain directly. Instead, she sighed and said to Holocaust sect's Elder Zhao, why don't you explain? As a woman, there are some words that I really can't say. Elder Zhao did not refuse. By now, he had completely calmed down. Listening to Madame Fanghua, Elder Zhao nodded slightly and sighed, then he said, "This is the Devil Heart Sutra, it is also a taboo in my demon sections. The full name of this cultivation method is Heaven and Earth Yin and Yang Free Demon Heart Sutra, the person who cultivates this cultivation method." Following that, Elder Zhao revealed everything he knew about the unrestrained Demon Heart Sutra without hiding anything. In the end, he even added, "The purpose of my trip this time is to search for the missing female disciples of our sect." Chapter 1381. The Lord of Tantai and several elders listened to Elder Zhao's description as if they were listening to a heavenly book. When they heard the cruelty of this cultivation method to women, they finally understood why Lady Fanghua would say that she couldn't say it. Such a cultivation method was simply a sinful cultivation method that would be punished by the heavens. No wonder even the demon sects were taboo. The degree of viciousness of the Free Demon Heart Sutra could almost be compared with the demonic arts of Lin Changhe in the past. It was not an exaggeration to describe it as a punishment for everyone. Li Junyu's current state was obviously that she was used as a cauldron by the person who practiced the Free Demon Heart Sutra, so she ended up like this. The person had been completely crippled. Even if she was cured, she would be a person who had lost all her sanity and cultivation base, and there would be no possibility of recovery. However, the Taishinman in Li Junyu's mouth made everyone in the Green Jade Immortal Island a little surprised. As the number one sect of the Tao sects, what kind of cultivation method was there? How could there be a disciple who would cultivate this strange cultivation method? Could it be a conspiracy of the demon sects? As soon as the Lord of Tantai's eyes looked over, Elder Zhao of the Holocaust sect over there hurriedly stood up and swore on the spot, "I swear by my heart demon, when I was tracking the missing disciples of my sect, I tracked them to the vicinity of Taishinmen and met her." Elder Zhao had just made a heart demon oath, and Lady Fanghua over there also made another heart demon oath. She also went out to find the missing disciples, and happened to meet Elder Zhao and Li Junyu, and it had nothing to do with this matter. The people in the demon sects valued the heart demon oath more than the Tao sections. With the performance of the two, the Lord of Tantai and the others were skeptical, and their hearts were inclined to believe it. Even if it was a conspiracy of the demon sects, there was no need to use the life of the great elder, Lady Fanghua, to display it, right? The Tao and the demon sects were incompatible, so Lady Fanghua and Elder Zhao just hurriedly treated Li Junyu and did not care about it anymore. Now that he had arrived at the Green Jade Immortal Island, no matter what Li Junyu did in the past, she was still a person of the Green Jade Immortal Island after all. Even if he wanted to know more news from her mouth, he had to treat her properly. The best healing medicinal pill from the Green Jade Immortal Island was given to Li Junyu, and then several elders personally made Li Junyu calm down and began to extract Li Junyu's memory little by little. For now, the Lord of Tantai did not need to pay too much attention to such trivial matters. What she was interested in was that both Lady Fanghua and Elder Zhao came out to look for the missing disciples. This situation caught her attention. There had been some rumors that many nascent soul and Mahayana female cultivators had gone missing, but no one took it seriously. It was common for cultivators to casually go out for 100 years. Didn't you see how Yang Chen went out with his wives and concubines for more than 100 years? No one had mentioned that they were missing. However, there was always a possibility that it was true. If the unrestrained Devil Heart Sutra was taken into account, then this matter was not completely impossible, but rather highly probable. However, would the masters of the Mahayana stage be taken away so silently? Lady Fanghua and Elder Zhao were properly settled down. When they came to the Green Jade Immortal Island, all the people who knew about it were gathered together, and they must not leak the slightest news. The Taishinman and the Devil Heart Sutra were linked together. This matter was really a big deal, and they had to be cautious. The Lord of Tantai and several elders went to the most secret meeting hall of the sect this time to concentrate on treating Li Junyu and wanted to get more from her mouth. Li Junyu was completely quiet, but there were only a few words in her mouth back and forth, and nothing else, so that the anxious elders were really somewhat helpless. Her spiritual awareness is seriously damaged. It is estimated that she can't remember much. Elder Min shook her head. She was really helpless and could only give up. Is there no other way? The Lord of Tantai frowned. If Li Junyu couldn't remember anything, it was equivalent to having no effect at all. Maybe there is a way. Another elder next to him seemed to think of something and suddenly said, "What is the way?" Everyone's spirits were lifted and their eyes were cast on the elder who spoke. In the past, the young sect master of the Taishinmen, Li Liheng, was injured in his spiritual awareness. It is said that he took the medicinal pill refined by Grandmaster Yang, and then he recovered. The elder slowly said, "After so many years, Li Liheng's spiritual awareness has long been without problems, and some people in the Taishinmen also slowly leaked the spirit congealing pills." Just as the elder spoke, Li Junyu, who was originally quiet, suddenly seemed to have encountered something terrifying, and shouted in horror, young sect master, don't come over, don't come over." While screaming wildly, she dodged backward. The original Yuanying stage master looked like a frightened cat. "Don't be afraid, don't be afraid, the young sect master didn't come over." Elder Min seized this opportunity in an instant and immediately hugged Li Junyu, and comforted her softly in her ear. "Don't be afraid, the young sect master didn't come over." Li Junyu, who was struggling frantically, finally calmed down a little under the soft comfort of Elder Min, but her mouth still kept saying, "No, young sect master. No, young sect master." It was as if she had seen something horrifying in front of her. "Don't be afraid, don't be afraid." Elder Min gently patted Li Junyu's back, and at the same time sent a spiritual power to ease her panic, while still comforting her softly. "Elder Bei, save me! Elder Lu, save me!" After Li Junyu shivered for a good while, she suddenly opened her mouth and said something. In one sentence there were two people's names. Hearing those two names, the Lord of Tantai and several elders all stood up in shock. The Elder Bei and Elder Lu that Li Junyu mentioned, who should that be? The surname Bei was originally a small surname. There were not many cultivators with the surname Bei, and there were not many who were usually called elders. If all the people that Li Junyu knew were counted, it seemed that there was only one possibility. The elder Bei Shuangyu was punished in the Eye of the Sea because of targeting Shi Shanshan. As a result, his whereabouts were unknown and even his life source tablet was lost. At the same time, Lu Ziwei, Elder Lu, who was also punished for the same thing, also lost her life tablet, and her whereabouts could no longer be found. Li Junyu could call out these two names in panic. What does this mean? You have to know that Bei Shuangyu and Lu Ziwei had an accident, but it was hundreds of years after Li Junyu disappeared. She should not and could not know that these two people were together, right? More importantly, who was the young sect master that Li Junyu said that made her so frightened? What kind of experience did he experience to scare a Yuanying stage master like this? Even hearing a name made her so frightened. Chapter 1382. The young sect master of the Taishamen was once treated by Master Yang because his spiritual awareness was injured? The Lord of Tantai keenly caught this word and asked to confirm it. Yes, Island Master, Master Yang has refined thousands of spirit-congealing pills for Li Liheng. Later, the news was that Li Liheng's spiritual awareness was completely healed and there has been no relapse. Elder Min replied quickly, but the young sect master that should have been called in her mouth had also become Li Liheng's name. The difference in the small address has already shown the change in the attitude of the Green Jade Immortal Island. The elders were all shrewd people. How could they possibly not hear the difference in this? From the normal logic analysis, Li Liheng's spiritual awareness was injured in the past. After recovering, in just a few hundred years, he entered the Yuanying stage from the Jedon stage, and it was said that his spiritual awareness had soared and he had broken through the realm of the Deshang stage. If there was no problem with this, then there would be a ghost. Li Junyu's appearance was simply too easy for people to associate. Li Liheng's spiritual awareness was injured and then recovered, and his cultivation base soared in a short period of time. Li Junyu's appearance was like a cauldron, plus her mouth kept repeating the Devil Heart Sutra. The young sect master, as long as they were not fools, the first reaction must be related to the Taishamen, at least it was related to Li Liheng. Although the demon sect Lady Fanghua and Elder Zhao sent people together, the Green Jade Immortal Island also understood the details. It seemed that Elder Zhao of the Baleful Blood sect first discovered Li Junyu, and Lady Fanghua happened to meet him, so they sent Li Junyu to the Green Jade Immortal Island. Of course, why did they do this? Lady Fanghua also had a set of reasons. They came out to find the missing disciples of the sect. After all, they were in the domain of the Dao sects, and it was not as appropriate to inquire about the news as the people in the Dao sections. Using Li Junyu as a gift was also a good karma, and she hoped that the Green Jade Immortal Island could help them in their goals. The people of the Green Jade Immortal Island could think of things in a blink of an eye. How could Lady Fanghua not think of it? Presumably, she also had doubts about the Taishanmen, and she and Elder Zhao could not do anything about the Taishanmen, so she sent Li Junyu back. It would be a joke to say that they were noble. It was precisely because of this explanation that the high-level officials of the Green Jade Immortal Island felt that Lady Fanghua and Elder Zhao were credible. Naturally, the Heart Demon Oath also occupied a great proportion of it. Li Junyu disappeared after chasing Yang Chen. At that time, Yang Chen was fine. The Green Jade Immortal Island tried to use the Life Source tablet to track him, but there was no way to know his whereabouts. In the end, they could only confirm that Li Junyu was not dead, but they did not know where she was. Speaking of which, Li Junyu was also a traitor. Like Li Junyu, there were also Bei Shuangyu and Lu Ziwei. These two people disappeared together when they were punished by the sect, and even their life source tablets disappeared. The sect has not found their traces, but this time they heard their names from Li Junyu's mouth. If Lady Fanghua and Elder Zhao did not lie, Li Junyu was found near the Taishanmen. In addition to everyone's speculation, it seemed that the traitors of the Green Jade Immortal Island, Li Junyu, Bei Shuangyu, and Lu Ziwei, were all hidden by the people of the Taishanmen. This could also explain why the Green Jade Immortal Island had never been able to find their whereabouts. The Taishanmen took in the traitors of the Green Jade Immortal Island. What did this mean? Li Junyu and Lu Ziwei were okay, they were all ordinary elders. They didn't know much about the secrets of the Green Jade Immortal Island, but Bei Shuangyu was different. Before she betrayed the sect, she was the core elder. The core secrets of the Green Jade Immortal Island, there were few that she didn't know. This also meant that if Bei Shuangyu was controlled by the Taishanmen, the big and small things in the Green Jade Immortal Island had completely fallen into the eyes of the Taishanmen. What they wanted to know they could know. At the thought of this, the Lord of Tantai had a kind of coldness from the bottom of his heart that spread through his whole body. The spirit congealing pill that Grandmaster Yang used to treat Li Liheng's spiritual awareness, go to Shanshan and ask for a few. It was related to the safety of the sect. The Lord of Tantai couldn't care about other things and directly told Elder Min, no matter what conditions Yang Chen wants, agree to him. Elder Min promised and immediately left to do it. Thanks to Yang Chen, their family had come out of the well of Langia 2 years ago. Because Shi Shanshan had left the sect for more than 100 years, she had been serving her master Song Huan in the sect these days. If they wanted to find Shi Shanshan, it wouldn't be too troublesome. In less than half a day, Elder Min hurried back with a jade bottle and handed the jade bottle to the Lord of Tantai, and at the same time reported, Shanshan has the spirit congealing pill on her. In the end, she explained, Yang Chen is very good to Shanshan. All his medicinal pills, Shanshan has them. This also explained the reason why Shi Shanshan had the spirit congealing pill, which showed that Shi Shanshan might have nothing to do with this matter. In the past, because Elder Min didn't take care of it, there were people inside the Green Jade Immortal Island who secretly targeted Shi Shanshan, which made Yang Chen furious and wanted to seek justice for Shi Shanshan. This time, he couldn't make the previous mistakes. In fact, Elder Min was also superfluous. Who would doubt Shi Shanshan? It was not surprising that Shi Shanshan had the spirit congealing pill on her. With the character of Yang Chen, who almost threatened the entire Green Jade Immortal Island for Shi Shanshan, everyone would think that there was a problem if Shi Shanshan didn't have the spirit congealing pill on her. Opening the jade bottle, the Lord of Tantai looked at the second-grade spirit congealing pill inside, hesitated for a while, took out one and handed it to Elder Min. Give one to Li Junyu and see if you can ask anything. The second-grade spirit congealing pill was really magical. After Li Junyu took it for a while, she no longer had that feeling of fear, and she calmed down again. This time, the state seemed to be better than before she was frightened. Li Junyu's performance was a lot more energetic. Li Junyu's state was not much. Several elders tried their best to use the most gentle voice and began to ask questions slowly. Of course, their questions also carefully avoided the term young sect master, and they asked other questions in a roundabout way. In addition to Elder Bay and Elder Lu, what other acquaintances have you seen? After asking a few questions in a row, Li Junyu just repeated the previous Devil Heart Sutra, Elder Bay, Elder Lu and so on. She couldn't ask anything at all, until the Lord of Tantai asked this question. Li Junyu's expression instantly fell into confusion, as if she began to recall. After a while, Li Junyu began to say a few names intermittently. The senior members of the Green Jade Immortal Island were like a treasure, and immediately carefully recorded the names of these people that Li Junyu said. Chapter 1383. If Gong Sunling was at the side, she would definitely give a knowing smile. The people that Li Junyu was talking about were clearly the female cultivators that Elder Ming had personally dealt with or dealt with by Ming Guangru. Not a single one of them was missing from Li Junyu's mouth. Ming Guangruo was controlled by Gong Sunling in the Mountain River geographical map, so there was no room for resistance. Now that Gong Sunling herself had reached the Deshang stage, her control of the Mountain River geographical map had further deepened. The masters in the map had long been completely controlled by Gong Sunling. Whatever she asked, she would say without the slightest concealment. Every time the people of the Green Jade Immortal Island heard a familiar name, their hearts couldn't help but tighten. Each of these names represented an outstanding female cultivator in their early years. As far as they knew, the lowest cultivation base of these female cultivators was at the Yuanying stage, and the highest cultivation base had even reached the peak Deshang stage. The most incredible thing was that their names would come out of Li Junyu's mouth, and it was even when the Lord of Tantai asked her about the acquaintances she had met. Just thinking about the meaning of this was enough to make one's hair stand on end. Among these female cultivators, there were Tao sect disciples and Demon sect disciples. One of them was the one that Elder Zhao of the Holocaust sect was looking for. There was no one from the Yin Yang Demon School, but there were a few famous fox spirits from the monster race. Among the Tao sect disciples, there were even female cultivators from the Qiankuan sect, Five Elements sect and Blue Cloud sect. Elder Min, carefully inquire about the whereabouts of these people. After the Lord of Tantai quietly listened to Li Junyu's oral account, he was silent for a long time, and then he instructed Elder Min. In fact, among these names they knew a few female cultivators in the Tao sections. They had not appeared for a long time, and their respective sect only thought that they went out to gain experience, so they didn't pay much attention. As for the demon sect and monster race, the Lord of Tantai and the others were not clear, so they needed to verify it. Originally, this kind of small thing of checking the news, letting Elder Min, a Deshang stage core elder do it was simply an insult to Elder Min. But at this moment everyone understood how troublesome this matter was. Elder Min didn't have any thoughts of being despised or insulted. She nodded heavily without saying a word and turned to leave. The investigation of the information could not be discovered by outsiders, so things were a little slow. It was not until 10 days later that all the information was gathered. Elder Min not only used the power of the sect to investigate, but also investigated from the Wine Immortal House and some other channels, and the results were basically the same. All of the female cultivators mentioned by Li Junyu had left in the past 100 or 200 years, and had yet to return to their respective sects. Among the dozens of names that Li Junyu said, there was no exception. All of them were the same. In fact, the Lord of Tantai and the others were already mentally prepared for such an outcome. It's just that everyone felt that with the strength of the Taishaman Dao sects, coupled with the changes in the Heavenly Court, it was reasonable to say that the Taishaman should not do such a thing. Now that all the news has been confirmed, everyone sat together and looked at each other. They couldn't even believe such a fact. What should we do? The Lord of Tantai threw out the topic. Several core elders of the Green Jade Immortal Island were together. All of them looked dignified. The atmosphere and the heavy restrictions was very dull. All of them were silent. No one spoke. The matter was really a bit big. Even if it was the high-level members of the Green Jade Immortal Island who were in charge of one of the 5 major sects, they could influence the life and death of many people with a single word. They had a lot of scruples. In fact, there were not many roads in front of them. One was to settle things peacefully, as if this thing had never happened. The great elder of the Yin-Yang Demon School, Lady Fanghua, and Elder Zhao of the blood-killing sect, who knew the inside story, could be killed directly, and they could also add 2 more deeds of the Green Jade Immortal Island. They could silence the witnesses, and they could add gold to the face of the sect, and it would not affect the harmonious situation of the stability and unity of the Dao sections. It would kill many birds with one stone, and it would also reduce a lot of dispute. The other was to expose this matter, but the consequences were serious. The Green Jade Immortal Island would directly bear the anger of the Taishanmen, and the Dao sects would have internal strife. Needless to say, both sides would suffer heavy casualties. The strength of the Green Jade Immortal Island was now comparable to that of the Taishanmen. If everyone fought to death, it would benefit others. This was only in the mortal world. In the spiritual world and the immortal world, it was estimated that the Green Jade Immortal Island would be crazily suppressed by the Profound Heaven sect, and the loss would definitely exceed anyone's imagination. It seems that it is very easy to choose. On one side, everyone is good, and on the other side, they may have to face a disaster. From a realistic point of view, in fact, there was only one way, and there was no room for choice. However, the Green Jade Immortal Island has been pressed by the Taishanmen for many years, and there were countless open and secret competitions, but now they have to hold the thighs of the Taishanmen and wipe the ass of the Taishanmen. How could this be tolerated? Everyone didn't speak, but no one wanted to be the one to stand out and be scolded by others. It was obviously their own disciples who were bullied, but they had to swallow their anger. Who could swallow this anger? Even if it was a traitorous disciple, it was also a traitorous disciple of their own sect. How could they let others bully them like this? What's more, there was also Elder Bei who had mastered most of the secrets of the Green Jade Immortal Island. Actually, this should not be a matter of our Green Jade Immortal Island. Of course, Elder Min was unwilling to bow her head. After thinking about it, she decided to pull several other sects into the water. Since everyone has a missing disciple, it is likely to be related to the Taishanmen. Then gather several sects and discuss together what to do. This proposal was unanimously agreed by the high level. In recent years, the 4 major sects had become more and more displeased with the Taishanmen. If it was not a last resort, who was willing to bow to the Taishanmen? Since there were disciples involved, then look at everyone's opinion, it could be considered as pulling them all into the water. Carefully investigate the missing Yuanying stage and Deshang stage female cultivators in these years, and make a list of them. The Lord of Tantai finally decided on the way to deal with it. Send a secret letter to the sect masters of other sects and let them come to the Green Jade Immortal Island to discuss matters. If necessary, those big sects whose disciples are missing will also be notified, and everyone will discuss how to solve the matter together? If things were handled well, the crisis would no longer be a crisis, but a huge opportunity, a great opportunity to replace the Taishanmen. Even if the Taishanmen were strong, it was impossible to compete with the combined power of the 4 major sects, not to mention the demon sects, monster race, and those rogue cultivator alliances. In the calm world of cultivators, a turbulent undercurrent began to surge in the dark. Chapter 1384. The Green Jade Immortal Island was very secretive, and the sect masters of the sect who received the news were also very cooperative and rushed to the Green Jade Immortal Island in the most secretive way. In this regard, the reputation of the Green Jade Immortal Island was much better than that of Lady Fanghua, and there was no need to use any heart oath to win the trust of others. First of all, it must be a small gathering. Only the sect masters of the 4 major sects, except the Taishanmen, participated. The Green Jade Immortal Island, Blue Cloud sect, Qiankuan sect, 5 Elements sect, the 4 sect masters gathered together. The Lord of Tantai let them see the situation of Li Junyu, and then introduced the things that the Green Jade Immortal Island had recently investigated to the other three. This news made the three sect masters couldn't believe everything they heard and saw. The Taishaman would actually make such a crazy move. How was it possible that the number one sect of the Tao sects actually had people who practiced the forbidden cultivation method of the demon sect? What made them particularly unacceptable was that their own female disciples seemed to be involved, but they belonged to the victims. Although it has not been confirmed yet, if the guess was right, with the credibility of the Green Jade Immortal Island, this matter could basically be concluded. You can let the reliable people in the sect take their life tablets and enter the demon seal array of the Taishaman. The Lord of Tantai did not force the three sect masters to believe her, but gave them an idea. Among the three masters involved in the Green Jade Immortal Island, the life tablets of Bei Shuangyu and Lu Ziwei have been lost, and Li Junyu has returned to the Green Jade Immortal Island. For the time being, the Green Jade Immortal Island could not use this method to verify. However, the people of the other sect were still in the hands of the Taishaman. As long as they tried it, they would know. The demon seal array was an obstacle. Of course, the Taishaman must have other ways to shield the tracking of the life tablet. In the past, people couldn't find those missing disciples because they never suspected that the Taishaman would do so. Now that there was doubt, they could naturally try it. No matter what kind of shielding formation it was impossible for it to be ineffective inside the formation. This was not a 100% sure method, but it was a relatively safe method. As long as it was done secretly, it would not attract the attention of the Taishaman. Of course, the people from the three great sect wouldn't believe it so easily. They had to verify it. The matter was of great importance, and the three sect masters did not delay the time. The first time they arranged for the most reliable people to do this matter, and the several sect masters themselves secretly stayed in the Green Jade Immortal Island waiting for further news to come. The people who handled the affairs returned to their respective sect, took the life tablets of those missing disciples, and used this and that excuse to rush to Taishaman, tested in batches, and then rushed back to the Green Jade Immortal Island to report to their respective sect masters, which took 3 months. The 4 sect masters gathered once again. This time, the other 3 sect masters all had unusually serious expressions on their faces. The atmosphere at the scene was also very heavy, as if a storm was coming. The missing female disciple of my sect is indeed in Taishaman. The first to speak was Sect Master Lu of the Blue Cloud sect. The Blue Cloud sect has been advancing and retreating with the Green Jade Immortal Island over the years. The cooperation in the 100,000 mountains has obtained huge benefits, and the cooperation was very tacit. In addition, after the news, Sect Master Lu paused and began to add, there are still several female disciples in the sect who have not returned for a long time. Elderly didn't say it. This time, I let people take their life tablets to Taishaman to try it. There are 2 Yuanying stage and 1 Dashang stage disciple, all in Taishaman. The direction of the life tablet is pointing to the residence of the young sect master of Taishaman, Li Liheng. Speaking of this, Sect Master Lu seemed to have determined something. He shook his head and sighed. I can't imagine that the Taishaman, who have always claimed to be orthodox, would actually do such a thing. Basically, the things that Sect Master Lu of the Blue Cloud sect confirmed, plus the speculation of the Lord of Tantai of the Green Jade Immortal Island, this matter was already a done deal. However, in the face of the behemoth Taishaman, they had to be cautious. The Lord of Tantai and Sect Master Lu both put their eyes on the 2 sect masters of the Qiankuan sect and the 5 Elements sect. AI. The sect master of the 5 Elements sect, Xiao Wenshuan, also sighed and said slowly, there are 3 female disciples in my sect in the Greatest Heaven sect, they should also be with the young sect Master Li Liheng. Sect Master Xiao's words were not much, but the meaning has been expressed very clearly. The female disciples of the Five Elements sect were also enclosed in the demonic seal formation of Taishanmen. My Qiankuan sect has 5 female disciples in Taishanmen. The sect master of the Qiankuan sect Wu Jun's face was equally bad. When they went out, they all said that they were going to gain experience, and they never said that they were going to Taishanmen. The 4 sect masters didn't want to believe all this, but the ironclad facts clearly told them that this was true, and not a conspiracy of the demon sections. On the contrary, they had to thank Lady Fenghua and Elder Zhao. If they didn't take the initiative to send Li Junyu back instead of killing her, now the 4 major sect would still be in the dark, and they would still maintain a heart with the Taishanmen. Too much. Sect Master Shao of the 5 Elements sect couldn't help it anymore, and slammed the table in front of him. The table made of good wood was smashed into powder by Sect Master Shao's slap. In the past, the 5 Elements sect had a disagreement with the Taishanmen because of the matter of collecting the 5th Earth True Essence in the barren sand valley. At that time, the Taishanmen hid it from the 5 Elements sect and secretly set up a formation to collect the 5th Earth True Essence in the territory of the 5 Elements sect for 500 years. In the end, they failed and were discovered. Under the mediation of several major sects, the Taishanmen reached an understanding with the 5 Elements sect, and they compensated the 5 Elements sect for their losses. Only a few years had passed, not even 500 years had passed, and the Taishanmen had set their sights on the female disciples of the 5 Elements sect again. Moreover, they were cultivating the Freedom Demon Heart Sutra, a forbidden skill of the demon sections. They were simply using their own disciples as human cauldrons. Sect Master Shao, please calm down. This matter needs to be considered in the long run. Sect Master Wu of the Qiankuan sect next to him, although his face was livid, he was not as agitated as Sect Master Shao. What's there to be bothered about? With this kind of behavior, the Taishanmen are in vain as the leaders of the Dao sects. Let's bring our experts and kill the Taishanmen. Sect Master Shao was really anxious. New hatred and old hatred came together, and he couldn't wait to kill the Taishanmen. The Taishanmen still have the demon sealing formation. Sect Master Wu's words made Sect Master Shao quiet down. The 4 people present were very clear about the power of the demon sealing formation. Without a proper method, it was impossible to open the demon sealing formation from the outside, even a grade 4 Earth Immortal expert. Although the 4 major sects had a deep foundation, they were not deep enough to have an expert above grade 4 Earth Immortal. Then what should we do? Sect Master Shao resisted the impulse and asked angrily. Chapter 1385. Our 4 sects aren't the only ones with missing female disciples. Sect leader Wu must have carefully considered this issue and slowly expressed his meaning. This time, they have incurred public anger. No matter what, we must seize the opportunity and not let the Taishanmen have a chance to make a comeback. The 5 great sects were the same, but there was still fierce internal competition. The Taishanmen had been high and mighty for so many years. How could the other 4 sects let it go? They had competed with each other many times in the open and in the dark, but they had never brought their conflicts to the surface. This time, the Taishanmen were completely in the wrong. They had done this kind of evil thing that even the devil sects wouldn't do. No matter what, the 4 sects would seize the opportunity to completely trample on the Taishanmen so that they wouldn't be able to make a comeback. If it was only the 4 sects who were making trouble, the people of the Mysterious Heaven sect might have something to say when they went to the spiritual world and the immortal world. However, it was obvious that the Taishanmen were not only targeting the 4 sects, but also the Tao, Devil, and Demon sects. They didn't know what was wrong with the Taishanmen recently. How could they make such a stupid move? If all the sects in the world attacked the Taishanmen at the same time, it would be a completely different matter. This was exactly what sect leader Wu meant. He wanted to drag the other sects who had kidnapped female disciples into the water. So what if the Celestial World's Mysterious Heaven sect controlled the heavenly court? So what if the Jade Emperor came from the mysterious Heaven sect? The mysterious Heaven sect couldn't and didn't dare to offend all the cultivators, so they could only pinch their noses and accept the fact that the Taishamen were trampled to death. If they incurred public anger, they could only end up like this. The 4 people present were all decision-makers in charge of a big sect. None of them were stupid. Sect leader Wu's words directly pointed out the key point. Even if they wanted to do it, they had to stand on a moral high ground so that the people of the spiritual world and the immortal world couldn't say anything. As long as they were in the right, the 4 great sect would have people backing them up. This was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to overwhelm the Taishamen, especially this time. It might even shake the foundation of the mysterious Heaven sect in the mortal world. For the 4 great sect, the importance of this was even greater than the revenge of their own disciples being humiliated. Don't be fooled by how furious Sect Master Shao looked. In fact, he just wanted to use this opportunity to push the Taishamen into the abyss. In fact, the Green Jade Immortal Island also had a plan for a long time. The reason why the sect masters of the 4 major sects were first convened was that they wanted to unify their thoughts and coordinate their actions in a small range. Now that sect leader Wu had said what the Lord of Tantai wanted to say, everyone naturally began to plan with a tacit understanding. The immortal world had already started to slowly rope in the power of the demon sect. This was a good opportunity. Lady Fanghua and Elder Zhao could also join in. This meant that Yin-Yang Demon School and Holocaust sect would join in. Whether it was from the perspective of rescuing their missing disciples or from the perspective of the sect, dealing with the Taishamen was not bad for them. The news channels of several major sects were mobilized. Those sects whose female disciples had gone out for more than 100 years were all listed. Excluding some unattractive female cultivators, the remaining statistics included all the top sect of the Tao, Demon, and Demon sects, and even the largest rogue cultivator alliances. Looking at this result, the same thought flashed in the hearts of the 4 sect masters. These Taishamen were really courting death. Not only did they offend the 4 great sect of the Tao sects, they didn't even leave a single one of the Tao, Demon, and Demon sects, and even the largest rogue cultivator alliances. All the news was released secretly. Anyway, they didn't directly accuse the Taishamen. They only asked the higher-ups of the sect to secretly send people with the natal spirit tablets of the missing female disciples to enter the mountain gate of the Taishamen and try to find them. It was better to let the sect come to a conclusion on their own than to tell them directly. Otherwise, those guys would suspect that the Tao sect was plotting something. Speaking of which, the sect masters were very strange. Although the Taishamen were strong and overbearing, they had never been so despicable. They even wanted to cultivate the forbidden techniques of the demon sect. Moreover, they even used the outstanding and beautiful female disciples of other sects as human cauldrons. That was not all. The problem was that the Taishamen were actually so careless. They only isolated the spiritual sense from the natal spirit tablets outside the mountain gate. Could it be that they were so bold that no one would suspect the Taishamen? The continuous stupid moves were all concentrated on the young sect master, Li Liheng. This was even more puzzling. The sect masters even began to show off their talent. Could it be that Li Liheng was really the illegitimate son of sect master Li? Otherwise, how could he be given such high power? It was believed that as long as the sect secretly investigated, they would be hostile to the Taishamen. The problem now was how to deal with the demon sealing formation of the Taishamen. If it was really launched against the Taishamen, the demon sealing formation would be a natural barrier that could block everyone outside. All the families had bought the demon sealing formation of the Zhao family. The masters of the sect had also studied the demon sealing formation in depth. Everyone knew the power of the demon sealing formation in detail. If there were no accidents, it would be impossible to break the formation. The only people in the world who had broken the demon sealing formation were the combination of Yang Chen and Black Tortoise. However, Yang Chen had already said that only the masters of the fourth grade of the Earth Immortal Realm or above could cooperate with each other to break the formation. According to this, it seemed that they could only send someone to enter the mountain gate of the Taishaman first, and then suddenly launch an attack from the inside. If the demon sealing formation was the first difficulty to be overcome, then the unknown number of Grand Shang elders of the Taishaman would be the second difficulty. Each of these old guys with high cultivation had the strength beyond the ascended masters. To deal with them, ordinary masters were useless. They could only be defeated by the same Grand Shang elders. Speaking of which, there were so many big sects with deep foundation, and each sect had a large number of Grand Shang elders. Their combined strength was definitely more than that of the Taishaman. However, casualties were inevitable in a battle of this level. Even if there were no casualties and the demon sealing formation was broken, it was inevitable to trigger the heavenly tribulation. In the end, there would still be losses. However, compared with the destruction of the Taishaman, such losses were absolutely bearable. If only the Grand Shang elders of the sect could be exchanged for the destruction of the Taishaman, it was believed that none of the four sects would be stingy. Especially this time, it was not only the four sects. As long as half of the Grand Shang elders of each sect were sacrificed, it would be enough to kill all the Grand Shang elders of the Taishaman. At the thought that the number one Taoism sect, or even the number one sect in the mortal world, would be destroyed in the near future, everyone felt a burst of excitement. Of course, in addition to the excitement, everyone retained their rationality. The next thing had to be done step by step. Chapter 1386. Yang Chen's life in the past 2 years was very comfortable. He has been staying in Chunyang Palace. In addition to practicing alchemy, he was instructing his apprentices. He did not go out of the door and did not step out of the door. He was just like a lady from a famous family. Sometimes, Yang Chen did not forget to go to the Yeshio Villa to instruct the new disciples. With the guidance of a master of the Deshang stage, the outer sect disciples of the Yeshio Villa were simply happy. Everyone was ecstatic, and then they seized this rare opportunity to get personal guidance from their great uncle master, and then continued to cultivate happily. Now Yang Chen was already the great uncle master of many people. This seniority was absolutely not wrong. For hundreds of years, there were countless brothers of the same generation as Yang Chen, who had begun to accept apprentices and pass on the torch. Not to mention anything else, even Mu Bo and Hannah Mengyu had apprentices. Yang Chen was already the master of more than a dozen Jedan stage and Foundation stage disciples. There were even 2 Jedan stage grand disciples who already had their own apprentices, and Yang Chen was already the great uncle master. The development of Chunyang Palace in the past few hundred years could be described as changing with each passing day. With the income of Shirwan Mountains and Qianqiu Pavilion Wanbao Tower, the Banyan Tree Immortals Cave and Blue Vault Mountain Immortals Cave, plus the site of Meiqing Mountain, there were thousands of disciples with good qualifications. There were many masters of the Deshang stage and Yuanying stage. Chunyang Palace couldn't not prosper. The only thing that couldn't be compared with those big sects was that Chunyang Palace's foundation was insufficient. Although it had lasted for thousands of years, there were not as many masters as the 5 major sects, which was somewhat of a fly in the ointment. But it was only a matter of time before they believed this. Almost everyone thought that Yang Chen was staying in the sect to make some contributions to the sect as much as he could because he had been out for a long time, and at the same time, he was also in charge of the sect. After all, most of the masters of the Deshang stage in the world, if there was no special thing, they would basically choose this. At this level, one should only think about transcending the tribulation and ascending. Only Gao Yu and Gong Sunling knew that Yang Chen stayed in the sect not for the above reasons, but for another purpose. However, they only knew a little bit of it. They didn't know what it was exactly. Gong Sunling knew a little more. Li Junyu had become like that because of her and Yang Chen's cooperation. Relatively speaking, Gao Yu knew less. It wasn't that Yang Chen favored one and discriminated against the other, but in Yang Chen's heart, what he had always wanted to do in this life was to let his master ascend to the heavenly court without any worries, so that he would no longer have to suffer as he had in his previous life. In this mood, there were some things that Yang Chen did not want Gao Yu to know and worry about him in the future. Obviously, Yang Chen was still inexperienced in this regard and underestimated Gao Yu's determination to go through fire and water for him. "Husband, is there something you and Ling are hiding from me?" When Yang Chen was considering when to release Li Junyu out to bring the best effect, Gao Yu snuggled up in Yang Chen's arms, and while being intimate with Yang Chen, she suddenly asked Yang Chen, "How could it be?" Yang Chen bowed his head and gave Gao Yu a sweet smile. Then he saw the strong concern in Gao Yu's beautiful eyes. He couldn't help but feel warm in his heart, and he bowed his head and kissed her. After a little entanglement with Yang Chen, Gao Yu leaned on Yang Chen's chest, closed her eyes and said, "Husband, I know you pity me and don't want me to be scared, but husband, the more you do this, the more uneasy I will be. You and I are already husband and wife, and we live and die together. I can't let you bear everything while I do nothing." In her previous life, Gao Yu was a bold and responsible woman. Although in this life, with the help of Yang Chen, she had fewer hardships, her character had not changed. She liked Yang Chen's care for her, but she did not want Yang Chen to bear everything alone. Only Yang Chen and Gao Yu were immersed in the beauty of the spiritual intersection, feeling the tacit understanding of each other's care and attention. Their hearts seemed to be merged together. "Husband, you are going to face a big enemy, aren't you?" After a long time, Gao Yu came back to her senses from that kind of enjoyment. She reached out and put her arms around Yang Chen's neck, twisted her body against Yang Chen's chest, and asked in a low voice, "Tell us, let us bear it together, okay?" "Okay." Yang Chen finally agreed. After so many years, although Yang Chen spared no effort to make Gao Yu a master of the Deshang stage, he always knew a truth. Even if he did not want Gao Yu to suffer, the necessary sharpening was still necessary. Careful care and training could not make a master. If he wanted Gao Yu to be safer in the future, he must let her experience more sharpening. "When Ling comes over, let's talk together." Since Yang Chen had this idea, he was too lazy to talk about it. Now, it was better to enjoy the rare pleasure of being in harmony with Gao Yu. After a long time, Gao Yu lay beside Yang Chen in the aftertaste of extreme happiness, her head pillowed on Yang Chen's thick arm, and asked softly, "Why is Ling so happy recently?" "Because there is a little surprise." Yang Chen smiled and began to explain to Gao Yu. When he came out of the Langyu well, Yang Chen got the space of the Langyu well, such a large immortal's cave. Yang Chen gave it directly to Gong Sunling at that time and let her integrate it into the Mountain River geographical map to increase the power of her life source magic weapon. At that time, Yang Chen forgot the existence of Ruoshui, so Gong Sunling was very surprised. There were not many opportunities to pick up from the hands of Yang Chen. This was the first time among the women. However, at that time Gong Sunling thought that it was the only surprise, but after coming back, she found that the surprise was far more than just some small Ruoshui. The entire space of the Langyu well was actually the location of an immortal's cave of a big sect hundreds of thousands of years ago, or even more. Later, all the treasures obtained by people who entered the Langyu well were the legacies of that big sect. And that sect, unfortunately, was destroyed by a powerful guy a long time ago. This powerful guy who destroyed other people's sect did not leave any benefits for himself, and also ended up dead. Fortunately, although the body was dead, the Tao had not yet disappeared, and there was still a trace of spiritual awareness left. With the help of Ruoshui and the guys who kept coming in to hunt for treasures, he was able to survive. Now this trace of spiritual awareness has become the spirit of Yang Chen's profound spirit furnace, which was the dragon spirit of the powerful dragon clan master at that time. Although the dragon spirit was very strong and destroyed the opponent's entire sect, Its own body was also turned into ashes in the fierce battle. Except for a few dragon scales left, there was nothing else left. Another surprise of Gong's Sunling was here. Although the body of the dragon spirit has been blasted into powder, it was all left in the space of the Languel. Chapter 1387. Even if the original dragon's body has been broken into the finest dust, it still remained in the space. After the integration of the entire space of the Languel, Gong's Sunling was pleasantly surprised to find that her mountain river geographical map had undergone a qualitative improvement. If it was just an ordinary space, even if it was a real space, at most it would only make the mountain river geographical map a little more virtual and real, and there would not be too many changes. But the Languel was different. The integration of the Languel meant the integration of a complete body of a dragon master, and it was still the remains of a super strong dragon master. It was almost impossible to refine the remains of a whole dragon in the human world. Except for the dragon itself, Yang Chen could not think of any master who had completed such a feat. At least the 5th grade of the Earth Immortal realm or above could be refined. However, the dragon in the Languel had been turned into powder by someone. Refining the whole dragon and refining the fine powder were completely different concepts. In terms of difficulty, it was a world of difference. With the level of Gong's Sunling in the early Deshang stage, coupled with the help of hundreds of Deshang stage masters in the Mountain River geographical map, in a short period of time, the most subtle dragon powder was refined and integrated into the Mountain River geographical map. Except for the 2 dragon scales that were collected and integrated into the profound spirit furnace by Yang Chen, the rest of the dragon's body was easily integrated into the Mountain River geographical map by Gong's Sunling. The integration of a fire dragon directly made the Mountain River geographical map get a qualitative improvement. The previous Mountain River geographical map was just made of 2 dragon bones and a piece of dragon skin. Because of the strength of the dragon itself, coupled with the refining of a master, although the Mountain River geographical map was a pure earth attribute magic weapon, it could also accommodate the most powerful 5 elements in the world. In the past, Yang Chen was able to use the power of the Mountain River geographical map to collect the 7th metal spiritual solution and the 9th water spiritual solution because of this reason. However, it could absorb the power of the 5 elements, but in essence, the Mountain River geographical map was still an earth attribute magic weapon. With the addition of the complete fire dragon's body, it immediately became different. Almost instantly, it became a dual element of earth and fire. From a certain perspective, this seemed to make the Mountain River geographical map less pure, but from another perspective, it made the Mountain River geographical map more powerful. Although Li Qing had instructed Gong's Sunling to condense her own spiritual power when he was in the Demon Continent, and even Gong's Sunling did not hesitate to stop the growth of her cultivation at that time, and spent decades sacrificially refining the Mountain River geographical map. But now that the Mountain River geographical map has been condensed and Gong's Sunling has become a master of the Deshang stage, she no longer had to worry about that small problem. After adding the complete body of the fire dragon, the first feature of the Mountain River geographical map was its resistance to fire attack. In the past, he had to rely on earth attribute dragon corpses and the strength of refining experts to withstand the flame attacks of the mortal world. But now, he could rely on the Mountain River geographical map itself to withstand the flame attacks from the spiritual world. Naturally, the enhancement of the defensive power also meant that the realm of the master that could be trapped would also increase. According to Yang Chen's estimation, perhaps at this level, it would be effortless to trap a master above the 2nd grade of human immortal. As for the master of a higher realm, it would be combined with Gong Sunling's own cultivation base. The most subtle thing was that, although a whole fire dragon's body was added, the fire dragon's body did not make the Mountain River geographical map become a fire attribute. In the end, it was still a problem of materials. The main body of the Mountain River geographical map was refined with 2 complete dragon bones and a complete dragon skin, and the body of the fire dragon that was integrated later was the powder that was scattered throughout the space of the Languel. The complete dragon bones and dragon skin were naturally stronger than the powder and more dominant. Therefore, the Mountain River geographical map was still suitable for Gong Suanling's Earth attribute magic weapon. The added fire attribute was just a more beneficial supplement to the Mountain River geographical map. After discovering this, Gong Sunling was like a treasure. After showing off in front of Yangchen again, she began to continue to refine the Mountain River geographical map, and at the same time she trained the masters in the Mountain River geographical map more carefully. All of this was not mentioned to Gao Yu, so Gao Yu felt puzzled and asked. Now that she knew the whole story, Gao Yu naturally covered her mouth and snickered. It was no wonder that Gong Sunling was so proud to be able to pick up a loophole in front of her husband again and again. When Gong Sunling also rushed to the side of the two, Yang Chen revealed a limited part of his plan. What? Husband, you want to deal with Taishanmen? Hearing that Yang Chen only said that his target was Taishanmen, Gao Yu and Gong Sunling could not help but exclaim. Gao Yu couldn't help but ask, why? Although Gong Sunling didn't ask, she also stared at Yang Chen with a worried expression. If it was any other sect, as long as it was not at the level of the 5 sects, even if it was an ancient esoteric family such as the Zhao family, he could deal with it. But who were Taishanmen? It was the largest sect of Dao sects. Even the spiritual world and the immortal world had the support of a super powerful sect. Was her husband crazy? Knowing that Yang Chen did not like Taishanmen, the two women used to think that it was because of Li Qinchen, but Yang Chen had never expressed such hatred to Taishanmen in front of the two women, and even showed the intention to openly deal with Taishanmen. The two women could not help but be surprised. There are at least 3 reasons why I must deal with Taishanmen. Yang Chen waited for the two women to be surprised, and then began to explain one by one. The first reason, of course, was the arrangement of Taishanmen against Chunyang Palace. These things were highly confidential in Chunyang Palace. In addition to Yang Chen, only the head of the palace and several core elders knew about it, others were not clear. Now that Yang Chen recounted the events of that year one by one, Gao Yu and Gong Sunling knew what happened. When they thought that Liang Xiaoming turned out to be an undercover agent sent by Taishanmen to control Chunyang Palace, and even the bombing of the sect's mountain gate was caused by Taishanmen, plus later Ming Guangrua bullied them, the two women could not help but be filled with righteous indignation. The second reason was, of course, the attack by Taishanmen against Yang Chen. Li Qinchen, the previous attack on Yang Chen at sea, an old guy in the Demon Continent, and Ming Guangrua's attack in Languel, were all the handiwork of Taishanmen. One was public, one was private. In both public and private aspects, Yang Chen had a clear reason to deal with Taishanmen. But this was not all. Yang Chen said the third reason that he thought was the most important. The sect master of Taishanmen needs a female master with a full value of water spirit root to be a furnace for cultivation. Yang Chen almost gnashed his teeth and said this sentence. He has taken a fancy to you. Chapter 1388. People who are familiar with Yang Chen know that Yang Chen is sometimes very easy to talk to. As long as he doesn't do too much, Yang Chen will generally turn a blind eye and not care about people. Thinking about it, a person with the mentality of a great principal golden immortal and a group of mortal children, what is there to care about? But there was one thing that no one could offend, that was Gao Yu. The dragon has a reverse scale, and those who touch it will die. The phoenix has a hollow neck, and those who offend it will die. Gao Yu was Yang Chen's reverse scale, and also Yang Chen's hollow neck. No matter who it was, as long as they dared to offend her, Yang Chen would definitely kill the other party at all costs. This point could be seen from Gao Yu being taken advantage of by a certain guy in the 100,000 Mountains. Gao Yu was injured by the people in the 100,000 Mountains, and the entire 100,000 Mountains was uprooted. Almost all the people who passed through it were wiped out. The only one left was Scar, and it was because he held back when he started, and afterwards he kowtowed in front of Gao Yu to admit his mistake. It must be known that at that time, Yang Chen was just a small junior in the foundation stage, and he had already mobilized the forces of all parties and overturned 4 Deshang stage masters and countless Yuanying stage masters. Now that Yang Chen was a master of the Deshang stage, what would be the result of his opponents? Gong Sunling was not surprised to hear these reasons. It was not the first time that Yang Chen had shown discomfort with Taishanmen over the years, so she was not surprised. The only thing that was a little envious was that Yang Chen attached great importance to Gao Yu. However, that was what Gao Yu's sister deserved, wasn't it? If it weren't for Gao Yu, Gong Sunling could only watch Yang Chen and Gao Yu's double cultivation, not to mention now. As for Gao Yu, not to mention it. 1,000 or 10,000 reasons could not compare to the last one. Knowing that her husband was doing this for her, the happiness in Gao Yu's heart almost overflowed from her body. How could Gao Yu not understand her husband's intention? Not to mention that Yang Chen wants to deal with Taishanmen. Even if Yang Chen wants to be the enemy of the whole world, Gao Yu will not hesitate to stand by Yang Chen. Now that they understood Yang Chen's goal, the two women no longer asked much. However, there was a requirement, that was, this matter could not be left behind. The husband and wife were one. No matter what happened, everyone should face it together. Gao Yu and Gong Sunling knew that there was no harm to it for Yang Chen. At least they would be more careful not to hold Yang Chen. Ling, the last time I asked you to arrange the tracing formation in the diagram. Now with Yang with it. Since it was said, when Yang Chen let Gong Sunling do things, it was a lot simpler, without too much explanation. Gong Sunling quickly helped Yang Chen make a statistic. For convenience, she even combined her own mountain river geographical map to show Yang Chen where each formation was. The location of each formation allowed Yang Chen to see the virtual geographical structure of mountains and rivers, which was extremely detailed. Putting aside the formation of the major sect, that was not the target that Yang Chen wanted to track down now. The remaining few, especially the relatively small ones, became the focus of Yang Chen's attention. What's going on with these? Gong Sunling knew the result of Yang Chen's sale of the demon sealing formation last time. She was a little surprised by the few demon sealing formations in addition to the major sect. Where did these formation diagrams come from? These should be secretly arranged by a few sect. Yang Chen explained casually, it's a precautionary measure of the major sect. As he spoke, he went through all these places in his mind and kept them firmly in mind. After careful observation, he also had some ideas in his mind. Husband, if we want to deal with the Taishanmen, how can we break the demon sealing formation? When Yang Chen mentioned the demon sealing formation, Gong Sunling was also reminded by Yang Chen and thought of this problem. It must be known that it must be attacked from both inside and outside, and only a master could break the formation. The Taishanmen also arranged the demon sealing formation. Could Yang Chen find another black tortoise master like he did with the Zhao family? It's more difficult to break the formation. Yang Chen replied honestly. Without the cooperation of the black tortoise, it was not so easy to break the formation, even with the immortal beheading blade. Maybe the speed at which he broke the formation was not as fast as the recovery speed of the formation. But Yang Chen was not in a hurry at all. It's more difficult to break it, but it's still simple to make a small opening and get in and out. The immortal beheading blade has now begun to integrate the core of the demon continent, and it can break the demon sealing formation by itself. With the core of the demon continent, it will be easier. Gao Yu and Gong Sunling didn't seem surprised by Yang Chen's answer, and they all had an expression of, as expected, on their faces. They knew that their husband would definitely keep a hand in the demon sealing formation, and sure enough, What's the difference between being able to enter and exit the demon ceiling formation at will and not having it? However, Yang Chen focused on the demon ceiling formation that was not in the mountain gate. What was he planning? What might be in those small demon ceiling formations? Gao Yu also asked curiously. Some great masters, some sect resources or something. Yang Chen was also guessing, but he was not sure. The big sect is rich and powerful, and they don't put everything in one place. A cunning rabbit has 3 burrows. Everyone can understand this truth, but why is Yang Chen not watching the mountain gate of Taishanmen, but these small demon ceiling formations? The mountain gate of Taishanmen will naturally be watched by others. We will restrain them secretly and make a small fortune. Yang Chen now answers every question. As long as the 2 women ask questions, he will answer them all. But there must be a large number of masters in this kind of sect. How can we deal with them? Although Gao Yu knows that Yang Chen can kill a great elder, Taishanmen is not an ordinary sect. It is easy to have a few dozens of great masters. No matter how powerful her husband is, 2 fists can't fight 4 hands. In any case, she will be worried. It depends on Ling, Yang Chen said with a smile. What should I do, husband? Gong Sunling listened to Yang Chen's words and was also confused. She did not know why Yang Chen said that, but she instinctively believed that Yang Chen must have a way, so she immediately asked how to operate. Set up a demon ceiling formation that can be activated at any time and place. Yang Chen smiled and pointed out, in your mountain river geographical map. As long as you confirm which one is Taishanmen, rush over and directly wrap the demon ceiling formation outside them. Gao Yu and Gong Sunling's eyes both lit up. Yang Chen's method is a bit bad. Since the other party is relying on the demon ceiling formation, then in turn, they will use the demon ceiling formation to deal with them. After all, the demon ceiling formation can block the opponent outside, but it can also trap them inside. Chapter 1389. No one has ever thought so. They always thought that the other party couldn't do anything to them with a demon seal array. They could only try to break it from the inside, but they didn't expect such a trick. Even if the other party came and went freely in his own demon seal array, there was a layer of demon seal array arranged by Gong Sunling outside. The array was in the hands of Gong Sunling, and the other party couldn't break it even if they wanted to. This method was thought up by Yang Chen after he knew that Gong Sunling's mountain river geographical map could be separated from reality. Of course, the most important reason was that the demon seal array could be actually arranged on the entity in the mountain river geographical map, and it could be released and activated at any time and anywhere. For the 2 women, this was a way to trap the guys in the demon seal array, but for Yang Chen, it was just a barrier to prevent some guys from escaping. At this time, Yang Chen couldn't explain to the 2 women, but he just let it be. Gong Sunling didn't say anything and immediately began to arrange the second set of demon seal array. Gong Sunling had already arranged a set of this array, and she was familiar with it. With the current wealth of Yang Chen and Chunyang Palace, the materials of the array could be taken out at any time. Gao Yu helped to refine some components of the array, and Gong Sunling arranged it happily. Gong Sunling was arranging the demon seal array here, and Yang Chen had been watching Yang Lan's every move through various channels. Yang Lan was the key to this success or failure. It was necessary to find the best time to launch. If it was too early, Yang Lan would not be able to complete the arrangement. If it was too late, Yang Lan would easily escape. For Yang Lan's reward, Yang Chen did not break his promise at all, and directly released it through the Wine Immortal house. As soon as this reward came out, it was not known how many people began to stare at the gate of Chunyang Palace. As long as Yang Lan dared to take a step out, he would definitely be beheaded. Poor Yang Lan, he had to suffer from the terrible pressure again. Fortunately, Li Liheng was now in the Taishanmen. For the time being, No one inside the Taishaman dared to rush to the site of the young sect master to find trouble with Yang Lan, but Yang Lan did not dare to slack off easily. Yang Chen's words were like thunder, waking up Yang Lan, who had been immersed in self-entertainment. If he didn't resolve the demon sealing array, even if he had the strength to transcend the tribulation, he would still die if he tried to transcend the tribulation. It must be known that Yang Chen himself was just a Yuanying stage cultivator. To trigger the tribulation, it must be the Yin fire tribulation first, and then the wind tribulation. Those guys waiting to exchange their heads for Yang Chen's medicinal pills outside, as long as they interfere with his tribulation, they may be blasted into slag by the tribulation. They don't even need to do anything. Yang Lan would never allow this kind of thing to happen. Even the dignified young master of the Taishaman was toyed around in his palm. If he had fallen at that moment, wouldn't he have died a wrongful death? In any case, Yang Lan had to solve the demon seal formation. Some people stared at Yang Lan's every move from a distance and fed it back to Yang Chen at any time. Yang Chen also waited very patiently until Yang Lan had the signs of solving the problem. At the same time, Gong Xuanling's demon sealing array had been arranged, and only then did it start. The destruction of the Taishaman, Yang Chen would never take the initiative to jump out when he was in the mortal world, and it was his own doing. That was not great courage, but clearly telling the masters of the profound heaven sect in the spiritual world that he was the culprit who killed the Taishaman, and then waiting for him to be slapped into a meat patty when he just ascended to the spiritual world. Yang Chen, who had lived 2 lives, was not so stupid. In the mortal world, this kind of sneak attack and make a fortune was Yang Chen's usual operating method. If he wanted to launch it, he would never launch it himself. Li Junyu was the best person to launch it. Of course, it could not be launched by Yang Chen. It was best to be a person who had nothing to do with the Dao sect. For Yang Chen, there seemed to be no more suitable candidate than Lady Fanghua. For the purpose of protecting Lady Fanghua, Yang Chen even got the whereabouts of Elder Zhao of the Bloody Sect through Lady Fanghua, and let Lady Fanghua send Li Junyu, who had lost her mind, to Elder Zhao's eyes. He later arrived, and everything that happened next in the Green Jade Immortal Island. Except for Gao Yu and Gong Sunling, no one knew that Yang Chen had pushed so much in the dark. Even the master of the Chunyang Palace only got a reminder from Yang Chen. If there was a sect that wanted to deal with Taishaman, Chunyang Palace could not rush to the front line and follow most of the sect to take advantage. Anyway, Yang Chen had already stared at the backup demon seal formation of Taishaman. Even if Chunyang Palace did nothing, they would never get nothing. The master of the palace was still confused and did not understand what Yang Chen meant. But fortunately, so many years of experience made him understand that since Yang Chen said it so seriously, there must be a reason for Yang Chen, and Chunyang Palace only had to follow closely. When the Green Jade Immortal Island had gathered several forces and began to question secretly, Yang Chen and Gao Yugong Sunling embarked on a journey to go out and gain experience. Husband, is this it? Gong Sunling was a guide, who led her mountain river geographical map was simply a natural map. She took Gao Yu and Yang Chen to 4 places, watching Yang Chen disappear secretly from one place, and then mysteriously appear back to her side from another place. Gong Sunling immediately asked, "That's it." A smile also appeared on Yang Chen's face. The previous arrangement was completely useful, and he finally found the second cave of Taishaman. With the cover of the sea jasper, coupled with Yang Chen's own powerful 3 purities secret art spiritual awareness, Yang Chen was on the periphery of the demon seal formation. He easily used the beheading immortal blade to break a portal that allowed him to enter and exit. He quietly drilled into it and carefully investigated it. Inside the demon seal formation there was a huge valley. In the valley there were not many people, and there were less than 100 people in total. However, any one of these people could set off a bloody storm in the mortal world. These dozens of people were all the masters of the supreme level. Since the emergence of the demon seal formation, those who had been hidden from the world have also begun to cultivate in a high-profile manner. They no longer had to hibernate like before, and they didn't have to worry about the arrival of the heavenly tribulation. Speaking of which, this was the benefit that Yang Chun gave to the entire cultivation world. However, if the Supreme Masters wanted to cultivate with ordinary cultivators, it was definitely no less than a disaster for ordinary cultivators. Not to mention anything else, just the spiritual power absorption during cultivation, no ordinary cultivator could compare with the Supreme Masters. All the spiritual power was definitely absorbed by the Supreme Masters, and it would never be left for ordinary cultivators. In order to take care of the Supreme Masters and ordinary disciples, generally speaking, the two sides were separated. Chapter 1390. The small demon sealing formation of the Taishaman was obviously prepared for their own Supreme Elders. At the same time, it could also be regarded as a small mountain gate of the Taishaman. It was not far from the mountain gate of the Taishaman, and it would only take a few days to get there. With a special high-speed flying sword that was not controlled by humans, it would only take half a day to get there. If there was really an emergency, the Supreme Masters could be dispatched at any time. Of course, there were also a few Supreme Masters in the mountain gate of the Taishaman. However, they could not cultivate as wantonly as they did here. Generally speaking, the Supreme Masters also took turns to cultivate. In the valley, the spiritual power was rich, and Yang Chen even found a trace of the heaven and earth infinite spirit suppression formation. It seemed that the Taishaman did not forget to set up a set of spirit suppression formation here, so that the place where the Supreme Elders cultivated would have enough spiritual power. In the Mountain River geographical map, Gao Yugong's Sunling was not afraid of being noticed at all and asked loudly, "What's inside?" In fact, those Supreme Masters would not easily walk out of the demon sealing formation. The formation isolated divine sense, and no one would know that there was someone outside the formation. Dozens of Supreme Masters. Yang Chun replied with a smile. At the same time, there is a large number of Taishaman. As long as the things are in hand, even if your husband doesn't do anything, he can easily support you for thousands of years. Although it was a joke, it also fully explained the wealth of those Taishaman. It was worthy of being the largest sect in the Tao sect. The richness of its heritage was far from being comparable to the new upstart like the Pure Yang Palace. Whether it was in terms of manpower or material resources, it could easily throw the Pure Yang Palace out of the street. Dozens of Supreme Masters? Yang Chun said it easily, but Gao Yugong's Sunling did not feel relaxed at all. Although they had not faced the power of the Supreme Masters directly, they could imagine it even with their toes. Their husband had just faced dozens of masters. How could it not make Gao Yu and Gong Sunling's beautiful faces pale? Although Yang Chun had already said that they would use the demon sealing formation to deal with the demon sealing formation and seal the opponents inside. However, who knew if dozens of Supreme Masters would surpass Black Tortoise's cultivation? Would someone break through and break the formation in the future? Once the demon sealing formation was broken, Chunyang Palace was likely to face a disaster. The opponent was the greatest heaven sect. Even if Yang Chen's performance was firm and calm, Gao Yu and Gong Sunling were very worried. Now looking at Yang Chen's posture, he even wanted to fight against the greatest heaven sect. The first reaction of Gao Yu and Gong Sunling after listening was to stop Yang Chen. "We're just trapping those experts, right, husband?" Gong Sunling grabbed Yang Chen and almost cried. She was so anxious that she couldn't say anything else. She could only anxiously wait for Yang Chen's answer. "I plan to kill all the Taishaman here." At this point, Yang Chen didn't hide it anymore and directly revealed his plan. Listening to Yang Chen's words, Gao Yu, who was next to him, directly put on the posture of a master. She did not call him husband and directly called Yang Chen's name. "Yang Chen, don't." After being tough, Gao Yu seemed to feel that her attitude was a little wrong. She immediately softened and began to beg softly, "Husband, it's too dangerous. How about letting them go this time?" Looking at Gao Yu's completely different attitude and listening to Gao Yu's tough and pleading voice, Yang Chen understood in his heart that his master, who could give up her life for him, would show such weakness. Everything was for him. How could Yang Chen not keep this affection in his heart? "Don't worry, a Ling." Yang Chen reached out and pulled Gao Yu and Gong Sunling to him. He held the two women in his arms and comforted them in a low voice, "Husband, I'll be fine. I promise you." No matter what Yang Chen said, the two women didn't believe it. The two women's attitudes were very consistent. Even if they let the Taishanmen go this time, they couldn't let Yang Chen take risk. Anyway, Yang Chen's arrangements had always been in the dark, and others didn't know at all. Yang Chen could get away and not let the Taishanmen know. "Believe me, have confidence in your husband." Yang Chen still smiled and comforted them, but no matter how Yang Chen comforted them, the two women didn't listen. Gong Sunling even hugged Yang Chen and didn't want him to leave. No matter how powerful they can't be as powerful as a fourth-stage Earth Immortal expert, right? Yang Chen had no choice but to reveal a little bit of information to reassure the two women. Sure enough, as soon as these words came out, Gao Yu and Gong Sunling were shocked and looked at Yang Chen with an incredible look, as if it was the first time they saw Yang Chen. Gao Yu, Gong Sunling and Yang Chen had only met a fourth-stage Earth Immortal expert once in their lives, and there was only one, and that was the Black Tortoise carrying the Zhao family's manor. At that time, when the Black Tortoise released all its momentum, the two women had no doubt that it could kill all the cultivators in the world alone. It was a kind of strength that could completely ignore any opponent. Any cultivator in front of it was just like an ant, and its life and death were in the hands of the Black Tortoise. The Zhao family was such a powerful family, but it was destroyed by the Black Tortoise in an instant. It didn't even need to do it by itself, and the heaven's retribution was enough to send everyone to hell. Now, Yang Chen actually talked about the Black Tortoise, a fourth-stage Earth Immortal expert. Could it be that Yang Chen could already defeat it? How was this possible? No matter how powerful her husband was, he was only at the early stage of nascent soul at that time. Could he really compete with a fourth-stage Earth Immortal expert? "How is it possible?" Gong Sunling almost whispered. She couldn't help but be shocked. Her husband seemed to have never concealed this kind of thing. Could it be true? Gao Yu also had an expression of disbelief, and the surprise on her face deeply betrayed her mood at the moment. "Nothing is impossible," Yang Chen said with a smile. "Remember, when you are with your husband, never say these words." But Gao Yu didn't know what to say. The news was so shocking that she lost the ability to think. "Do you really think that the Black Tortoise protected our whole family during the heaven's retribution because of gratitude?" Seeing the two women's disbelief, Yang Chen couldn't help but reveal a little truth. "Isn't it?" In any case, Gao Yu couldn't accept this fact. The Black Tortoise was a fourth-stage Earth Immortal expert. However, she had to believe Yang Chen's words. The Black Tortoise didn't even have to do anything at that time, and it could make everyone disappear. Except for the reason that Yang Chen said, Gao Yu couldn't think of any other reason that could make the Black Tortoise make such a decision. Chapter 1391. Black Tortoise and Yang Chen communicated for 2 years at most, and there was no intersection before that. Black Tortoise hated the Zhao family so much that he destroyed the Zhao family in an instant. Gao Yu and Gong Sunling really couldn't think of any reason to make Black Tortoise have a good impression of human beings. It seemed that only the most incredible reason that Yang Chen didn't say could be tenable. However, because that reason was the most incredible, both women had a feeling of disbelief. Grade 4 of the Earth Immortal, that was a grade 4 of the Earth Immortal. How was it possible? But why would a master of grade 4 of the Earth Immortal care so much for Yang Chen's family? Even the Zhao family manor was given away, and even the things inside were not taken away? The more they thought about it, the more hidden it was. The only explanation was that Yang Chen had completely subdued Black Tortoise during the 2 years of communication. But it was still impossible. The two sides could only communicate with divine awareness, and Yang Chen's divine awareness at that time was only grade 9 of the human immortal. This was what Yang Chen said himself. How could it compete with Black Tortoise, a grade 4 of the Earth immortal? Don't think too much. Yang Chen held the two women's arms gently and woke them up from the shock. In short, remember one thing, those masters inside are dead, and the things are also surnamed Yang. What are we doing now? Gao Yu and Gong Sunling were still in a sluggish state. This question was still asked by Gao Yu subconsciously. Wait. Yang Chen answered resolutely. Wait. Wait for what? At this time, Gao Yu and Gong Sunling both reacted and immediately began to ask. Around Yang Chen, it seemed that some miracles could always happen quietly, and they were the kind of miracles that they couldn't believe even if they were beaten to death. Whether it was a grade 5 alchemist or a master of grade 4 of the Earth Immortal, in short, it was the kind of thing that was impossible to happen in this world. But then again, if it was just an ordinary thing, it didn't seem to be a miracle. Wait for the Taishamen to make their move. Wait for the flying sword to come here. Yang Chen found a comfortable position to lie down, then held the two women in his arms and lay down together. When that time comes, it will be time for us to move. Gao Yu Gong Sunling knew nothing about Yang Chen's arrangement except for Li Junyu. She vaguely knew that it was related to Yang Lan, but the specific content was the same. Since Yang Chen said so, they didn't ask further. Anyway, they knew that Yang Chen wouldn't hurt them. Accompanying their husband was more important than anything else. The Green Jade Immortal Island has reached a secret agreement with the Demonic Path Monster and the Rogue Cultivator Alliance. For the Taishamen, many sects still have concerns. After all, it was the largest sect in the Dao sect. Even if the strength of everyone's joint forces had far exceeded that of the Taishamen, they still had their own thoughts. This time, they found that their missing outstanding female disciples were all in Taishamen, and they were related to the young sect master of Taishamen. All the sect was filled with indignation at first. But when discussing the specifics, there were some different opinions. To be honest, there were many sects that knew that the immortal world's Xiantian sect was in charge of the heavenly court. This level of sect always had their own different news channels. Receiving the avatar to the lower realm was not a patent of the Taishamen. All major sects had similar means. Because of this, everyone was a little lacking in confidence. Even if everyone united to completely suppress the Taishamen, so what? When they arrived in the spiritual world and the immortal world, wouldn't they still have to accept the revenge of the Xiantian sect? Just for a few female disciples, was it worth it to do this? Of course, not all sects had such concerns. There was more than one ambitious sect, and there were more than one who couldn't stand the behavior of the Taishamen. With such an opportunity, occupying the righteous position, many people were ready to fight. The elders of many major sects came together. Even for the Taishamen, it was a big event. The sect master and the core elders of the Taishamen sect waited together in the mountain gate, and the ordinary disciples who welcomed the guests directly lined up from the archway outside the mountain gate to the door of the sect's reception hall. The degree of grandeur could be seen. Compared with the kind of warm smile of the senior members of the Taishamen sect, these guests who came to the door did not look so happy. Entering the mountain gate of the Taishamen sect, everyone had a cold look. From the beginning of the mountain gate, they didn't say a word, which made the people of the Taishamen puzzled. What was equally confusing was the identity of these people who came. The elders of the four major sects of the Dao sects were easy to understand, but the demon sects, the monster race, and several rogue cultivator alliances all had high-level members, which made people have some guesses. What kind of big thing happened that made them come to Taishamen together? The high-level members of the Taishamen sect were in the front to receive the VIPs. Behind them, in the palace of the young sect master, Yang Lan was restless. A few days before the elders of the major sect arrived, Yang Lan had already discovered the abnormality. Yang Lan now only dared to wander in the sect, and it was only in the inner mountain gate. He did not dare to easily go to the outer mountain gate, for fear that someone would plot against him. Even so, Yang Lan still found something abnormal. Recently, there were many Yuanying stage masters of other sect who appeared in the inner mountain gate. In normal times, it was not a big deal for a few masters of other sect to appear in the inner mountain gate. As the leader of the Tao sects, Taishaman naturally had to make friends with the heroes of the world. But some of what Yang Lan saw was not so normal. In a very accidental situation, Yang Lan accidentally saw a certain Yuanying stage master secretly taking out something similar to the sect's life source spirit card. After activating it, he looked at the palace of the young sect master. This discovery made Yang Lan very panicked. He was not fully prepared. If everything was exposed now, it would bring immeasurable losses to the Taishaman. Yang Lan wanted Li Liheng to die, but he didn't want the Taishaman to fall. You know, the powerful Taishaman was Yang Lan's powerful backer, and Yang Lan would never destroy his own foundation. Even if he didn't know that Li Liheng would kill his brother and sister, Yang Lan would never easily move Li Liheng's brain. Unfortunately, things were impermanent. He offered his sister, and even became Li Liheng's most loyal dog. It could not be exchanged for other results. In Li Liheng's eyes, Yang Lan was just a dog. His life and death were not very important. On the contrary, a dead Yang Lan would be more beneficial to Li Liheng. In this case, it was not up to Yang Lan to choose, and he could only set foot on this road. Now Yang Lan's only expectation was that the matter of the Devil Heart Sutra would break out a little later, giving him enough time. Chapter 1392. If one person found out that his lost female disciple was in Taishaman, more people would find out. At this point, Yang Lan never thought about flukes. Since someone had already found out, Yang Lan had to advance his plan. What Yang Lan was worried about really happened. The elders of several major sects came together. Yang Lan, who got the news, immediately knew that the matter was exposed. He could no longer care about anything else. When those distinguished guests were still outside the gate of Taishaman, Yang Lan launched his own arrangement. The first thing that was launched was the hidden danger in the Devil Heart Sutra. Yang Lan, who also cultivated the Devil Heart Sutra, knew this demonic art better than Li Liheng. Once the hidden danger was launched, Li Liheng's whole body would be paralyzed and his spiritual awareness would be severely damaged. The demonic art was the demonic art. There was never a perfect demonic art. Even Yang Chen's cultivation method of Old Demon E, if he hadn't coincidentally become the executioner of the heavenly court, there would have been no chance of success in cultivating it. Killing hundreds of thousands of mortals was not as effective as killing a few great principal golden immortals. Before Yang Chen could kill tens of thousands of people, he would have been eradicated by the masters of the Devil Slayer. The Devil Heart Sutra also had a fatal flaw. When Li Liheng cultivated it, his cultivation base was high, and he did not notice this at all. Yang Lan just let Yang Lan use a small massage technique, and it easily sent Li Liheng into the hell of Qigong deviation. Li Liheng never thought that Yang Lan, who had been serving him with all her heart and soul, would give him such a fatal blow after he had just been comfortable and was about to lie down and enjoy it. He also did not expect that the slender jade fingers that could bring him infinite happiness before would bring such serious consequences when they inadvertently massaged him in a certain order. The backlash of the Devil Heart Sutra instantly made Li Liheng a waste. The damage to his spiritual awareness caused by Qigong deviation directly caused Li Liheng's sea of consciousness to be destroyed. Even if there was a 9 revolution spirit pill, it was estimated that it could not be cured. Yang Lan easily made Li Liheng look like he was suddenly possessed during cultivation, and then transferred all the women in his Immortal's cave who were used to cultivate the Free Demon Heart Sutra to Li Liheng's Immortal's cave. Yang Lan followed Yang Lan and was taken to the special formation Eye of the Universe Everlasting Spirit Suppressing Formation. Yes, it was escorting rather than walking by himself. This was a step that Yang Lan had planned for a long time. As early as after Yang Chen reminded Yang Lan began to plan to solve the Demon Seal formation. Similarly, he also found an excuse to use the special formation Eye. The other favored slave beside Li Liheng had already been controlled by Yang Lan and hypnotized with the method in the Free Demon Heart Sutra. His behavior was completely normal, and others could not see anything wrong with him. Under the control of Yang Lan, this slave had long been flattered by the master who was in charge of the demonic seal array. Of course, if it were not for the sake of the young sect master, the elder in charge of the array disc would not have bothered with this guy at all. Of course, the servant would send some gifts from time to time in the name of the young sect master. As an elder, the elder also expressed a high degree of appreciation for the young sect master's sensible behavior. Yang Lan paid a very high price and used an extremely precious knockout drug, which could directly make a Deshang stage master faint in silence. He used it when the servant fawned on the elder who was in charge of the formation plate to make the elder faint. Then he spent at least the lives of 4 Deshang stage cauldrons to secretly control the elder. All this was also done in secret and no one noticed it at all. Even the elder himself just thought that the wine given to him by the slave was strong enough, and it was unusually comfortable to get drunk. Not only that, but after waking up, his spiritual awareness cultivation base had improved. In this case, who would doubt that there was a problem with the wine sent by the young sect master? Next, Yang Lan waited for the universe everlasting spirit suppressing formation Eye to start. It takes time to start the array Eye, and before that, Yang Lan did not dare to start it easily. You must know that Sect Master Li clearly knew the operation of the universe everlasting spirit suppressing formation. Once it was discovered, it would be wasted. Yang Lan did not dare to bet that he had such a good character. When the slave escorted Yang Lan over, it had already been announced to many people that Yang Lan had made mistakes and would be punished by the young sect master. The specific punishment measure was to be used as a test subject and to do an experiment for the young sect master. Now, at this time, Sect Master Li and several core executives were welcoming the distinguished guests of several major sect and would not be distracted at all. The few people who knew about the universe everlasting spirit suppressing formation were all pinned down in the reception hall. No one knew what happened in the back mountain. Those who knew didn't notice this situation, and those who didn't know, how could they offend the young sect master because of some trifles? 2 little slaves, they could be selected by the young sect master to be experimented on. It should be the honor of their ancestors for 8 generations, who would care about it. This was also Yang Lan's plan. So far, he and his sister, Yang Lan, were 2 innocent people. Everything was the idea of the young sect master. They didn't even have the power to resist. Even if the sect investigated, they would not investigate him and Yang Lan. Everything was planned. Anyway, when the formation Eye was opened, Yang Lan would ascend as test subjects. As for how the sect would deal with the young sect master who had already gone mad, that was the business of the sect. What did it have to do with the 2 of them? This matter, even if it was said to the spiritual world, there would be no problem. Of course, the key to the plan was the young sect master. The young sect master couldn't die, but if he went mad and became a waste, he couldn't be cured. On the body of the young sect master who had gone mad, Yang Lan would not forget to put a lot of the spirit congealing pills left by the young sect master. These spirit congealing pills were refined by Yang Chen. In one of them, Yang Lan did something. Ordinary inspection could not find the problem, but as long as someone took it, there would be a spiritual awareness injury. The spirit congealing pill was Yang Lan's plan for Yang Chen. If the young sect master had an accident, Yang Lan didn't believe that the sect would not investigate, and then they would find the Free Demon Heart Sutra and the Spirit Congealing Pill, which would eventually involve Yang Chen. Even if the sect ignored the Spirit Congealing Pill because of the Free Demon Heart Sutra, Yang Lan also had a backup plan. A certain elder controlled by him would suggest a thorough investigation of these spirit congealing pills, and then they would definitely find the problem. In short, Yang Chen's head was inevitably a hat of murdering the Taishaman's young sect master. At that time, it would depend on how the Taishaman planned to deal with it. Anyway, in Yang Lan's plan, Yang Chen would never have a good result. Chapter 1393. Although the plan was hastily formulated in the past 2 years, Yang Shi thought it was perfect. First of all, it was a perfect way to get rid of himself and Yang Lan. No matter from which aspect, it was the problem of the young sect master, Li Liheng, and it had nothing to do with Yang Shi. The problem with the Free Demon Heart Sutra must be Li Liheng's instigation. Although the abduction of those female cultivators was done through Yang Shi's hands, it was definitely Li Liheng's order. Didn't you see that Yang Shi had been killed by Li Liheng later to do the experiment? If there was a problem with the spirit congealing pill, it had nothing to do with Yang Shi. Now in the mortal world, there was no one else except Yang Chen who had the ability to refine the spirit congealing pill. This solid hat, Yang Chen could not escape in any way. At that time, Yang Chen would be chased by the Taishaman. Yang Shi never thought that the Taishaman would be destroyed, even if it was the matter of the Free Demon Heart Sutra. The leader of the Tao sects, the world's largest sect, was not just talking about it, it really had the confidence. Even if it was wrong to abduct the female cultivators and make them cauldrons, it was also the fault of a disciple of the sect. As long as the Taishaman were sincere, they would hand over an insignificant guy. This kind of thing was not done once or twice by the Taishaman, and even the real culprit, Li Liheng, would not be handed over. Of course, the guy who was handed over must be someone around Li Liheng. Yang Shi's current situation was like a dead man. If he ascended, the Taishaman would certainly not be able to hand over him. The most likely situation was that the guy controlled by Yang Shi was handed over, and even the silencing was done by someone else, saving Yang Shi from doing it himself. As long as the Taishaman passed this test, there would definitely be an internal investigation. The promising young sect master was abolished, and Yang Chen was the most likely murderer. Could Yang Chen still have a good fruit to eat? What Yang Chen had to face was definitely the crazy revenge of the furious Taishaman, and he couldn't avoid death. It seemed that the timing was just right. Especially since Li Liheng had said that after the array eye of the universe limitless origin suppressing formation was activated, there was no way to stop it and could only wait until it was complete. This also means that no one will disturb Yang Lan and his sister Yang Lan before they ascend. Everything looked perfect, but unfortunately, the time was short. Yang Lan couldn't think of a more perfect idea. Otherwise, he wanted to see the face of Yang Chen before he died. It must be very pleasant. The special formation Eye of the Heaven and Earth Limitless Original Suppression formation was very important, so much so that the sect's higher-ups had built a palace there to conceal it, and there was always an ordinary elder guarding it. Of course, the elder in charge did not know the purpose of the array core. He only knew that this was a restricted area and no one was allowed to enter easily. When Yang Lan was escorted into the Formation Eye Palace, Sect Master Li of Taishaman had just welcomed the elders of several major sect into the reception hall. Distinguished guests, Taishaman is honored by your presence. Sect Master Li welcomed everyone in very enthusiastically and sat down according to the guest and host. Then he cupped his hands and said to everyone, "I don't know if everyone has come together. Is there any major event?" No one had ever dared to run to the main hall of Taishaman's mountain gate to question them. This was the confidence of Taishaman. Sect Master Li would not think of this possibility at all. He thought that something major had happened outside, and everyone had come together to ask Taishaman to uphold justice. There is indeed a major event. The one who spoke was an elder of the limitless demon sect. His words were very impolite. He directly stretched out his hand and took out 2 natal spirit tablets. He chuckled a few times and then said while gnashing his teeth, "My sect has 2 elders imprisoned by your sect. I came here to ask for a favor. I hope that you can release the 2 elders. My limitless demon sect will be eternally grateful." As soon as the elder of Wuji Demon School finished speaking, Sect Master Li and others frowned for a while. Taishaman was a Taoist sect, and Wuji Demon School was a demonic sect. Taoism and demonic sects could not coexist. Eliminating demons and defending the Taoism had always been the purpose of Taishaman. Capturing 2 elders of Wuji Demon School was a great credit for the disciples of the sect. Why had no one heard of it? However, Sect Master Li had never put the elders of Wuji Demon School in his eyes to ask for a favor. Although Wuji Demon School was a big demonic sect, Taishaman did not pay attention to it. Everyone was at odds with the demonic sections. It was a mercy to capture the people and not kill them. But they still wanted to release them. What a big dream! My Yin-Yang Demon School would also like to ask for a few favors from your sect. The representative of Wuji Demon School was the first elder, Lady Fenghua. At this moment, Lady Fenghua also took out 3 natal spirit tablets and put them on the table beside her. 3 elders of my sect have been missing for 200 years. Please make it convenient for us. Next, there were several elders of the demonic sects. All of them took out their life source spirit tablets and then asked the greatest heaven sect for a favor. A series of things made Sect Master Li and several core elders puzzled. When did their sect become so powerful? They had captured so many elders of the demonic sects, and they were elders in the nascent soul and Dashang stages with natal spirit tablet. As the managers of the sect, how could they not know about it? If it was just the demonic sects asking for favors, the high-level officials of Taishaman could completely ignore it. The Taoists and the demonic sects were irreconcilable. The 2 sides had been enemies for hundreds of thousands of years. How could they release them after capturing them? If it weren't for the fact that these elders of the demonic sects paid a visit to the mountain according to the rules, maybe they would also stay. They still wanted to ask for favors. Were they tired of living? But the problem was not only the demonic sections. After the demonic sects finished speaking, it was immediately the representatives of the demon clan. Everyone's actions were exactly the same. First, they took out their natal spirit tablets, then asked the Taishaman for favors, and asked the Taishaman to release several captured elders. At this moment, Sect Master Li and the others had already noticed that something was wrong. The demon clan was no longer a mortal enemy, unlike the demonic sections. If enough ransom was paid in private, as long as it was not a heinous crime, it was not impossible to consider. But the favor would not come so neatly. Sect Master Li and several high-level officials did not even know whether they were in the Taishaman. How could they deal with it? The mountain gate of the Taishaman was destroyed. They had once vigorously absorbed the demon clan into the Hall of Eccentrics to enrich their strength. How could they capture a large number of demon clan masters for no reason and imprison them? This matter itself seemed very abnormal. After the demon clan, it was the Rogue Cultivator Alliance. The actions of several representatives were exactly the same as those of the demonic sects and the demon clan. They all took out their natal spirit tablets, and then went to the Taishaman to ask for the people. As long as one was not a fool, he could see that something was wrong at this time. Didn't the Taishaman want to offend all the fellow Taoists in the world? Why would they do this to the Rogue Cultivator Alliance? What really made the high-level officials of the Taishaman collapse was the actions of the elders of the 4 major sections. They also took out a lot of natal spirit tablets, and then asked the Taishaman for favors. How was it possible? Even if the Taishaman took action, it was impossible for them to blatantly kidnap the elders of the 4 major sects of the Tao sect, right? Chapter 1394. Are you guys joking? Sect Master Li's smile was already a little unnatural. Seeing that the situation was not good, the Foreign Affairs Hall Master immediately spoke to help. Kidding? Elder Shi Yenha of the Blue Cloud sect shook her head directly and said to Mao Qi, "We don't have the leisure to come to the Taishaman together to joke, do we?" With that, she pushed the natal spirit tablet beside her and said with a sullen face, "These are the natal spirit tablets of several female elders of my sect. They have been outside for more than 100 years and have not been able to find their whereabouts. However, there is a response in the mountain gate of the Taishaman. If Hall Master Mao doesn't believe it, you can try it." As soon as Elder Shi's voice fell, all the guests who came forward pushed the natal spirit tablet that they had just taken out from their bodies. No one spoke, but everyone expressed the same meaning. If the Taishaman didn't believe it, they could test it on the spot. This time, the Taishaman, from Sect Masterly, all changed their expressions. When did their sect capture so many elders of the big sect to the Taishaman? Mao Qi didn't say anything and directly grabbed a natal spirit tablet in front of Elder Shi and immediately activated it to check. Sect Masterly and several other elders did the same. Everyone picked up the nearest natal spirit tablet and quickly checked it. In just a moment, the faces of Sect Masterly and several elders changed dramatically. They wanted to use facts to show that these guests were lying and joking, but the natal spirit tablet wouldn't lie. They could even find out that the owner of the natal spirit tablet was within hundreds of miles. It should be known that this was the reception hall of the inner mountain gate, and it was definitely within the demon sealing array. Even if there was a natal spirit tablet, it was impossible to detect the whereabouts of the owner through the demon sealing array. When they first got the demon sealing array, they had already tried it dozens of times in the Chunyang Palace. After their own demon sealing array was completed, they had also tried it countless times, but the result was the same. After confirming that the people from the major sect were not lying, the first reaction of Sect Masterly and several core elders was whether this was a conspiracy against the Taishaman. The Taishaman sect was the #1 sect in the Tao sect. They had been in the limelight for so long, it was impossible for them not to arouse the jealousy and dissatisfaction of other sections. As the top management of the Taishaman, they had a sense of crisis. With so many big sect members coming at the same time, they subconsciously thought that they were targeting the Taishaman. As long as a few high-ranking elders from the sect sneaked into the inner circle of the Taishaman, then everyone would find fault with them. This kind of thing seemed to be too easy, right? However, the higher-ups secretly became vigilant. It must be known that the shortest time for those who had disappeared was around 100 years, and the longest had even been missing for more than 200 years. If it was really a conspiracy, could it be that so many sect members had started to target Taishaman 200 years ago? If that was the case, even if he didn't succeed this time, it would still be a huge problem in the future. Everyone, is there any misunderstanding here? In this regard, Sect Masterly and several core elders had a well-thought-out plan and were not afraid that so many people present would turn against them. This was the Taishaman sect, not other places. Even if so many sect members wanted to carry out a conspiracy, they had to see if it was possible. Whether there is a misunderstanding or not, can't we just bring out our missing elders and ask them? The elders of the 5 Elements sect had long had a problem with the Taishaman. The matter of the Taishaman targeting the 5 Elements sect in the barren sand valley was left unsettled. This time, they must not let the Taishaman get away with it again, so they directly said it with a mocking tone. "Well, then let's go together and see what they say." Listening to the 5 Elements sect's elder ridicule, Sect Masterly was also angry in his heart. A small elder also dared to be so rude in the main hall of the Taishaman sect. If it weren't for so many people, they would have made this guy disappear once. So far, none of the elders of the major sect had mentioned the matter of the Devil Heart Sutra. First, they did not want to arouse the vigilance of the Taishaman. Second, there was no direct evidence. They just heard the words from Li Junyu's mouth, and they were not completely sure. After all, the Taishaman was still a terrifying behemoth. Although any sect would not be afraid of them, it was still slightly insufficient to say that they could really be evenly matched. Sometimes they could not completely fall out with each other, there was no room for negotiation. To the surprise of the Taishaman high level, the positions of all the missing female cultivators all pointed in one direction. Several high-level people speculated in that direction and immediately realized that there might be a little trouble. That direction was clearly the direction of the palace of the young sect master, Li Liheng. At this moment, the special eye of the heaven and earth infinite spirit suppressing formation had been opened, and the spiritual power in the formation was slowly flowing into the eye of the formation. Yang Lan, who had been staring nervously, finally let go of his heart completely. At this moment it was impossible to stop the eye of the formation, and with the protection of the eye of the formation, even the Supreme Elder could not rush in to take him and Yang Lan. Sect Master Li and several core elders took the representatives of the major sect and flew together to the place where the missing female cultivators were. The inner mountain gate of the Taishaman was only a few hundred miles away from here. It didn't even take half an hour to fly on the sword. "Greetings, Sect Master." "Greetings, elders." Seeing Sect Master Li and several core elders appear at the same time, the servants who served the young sect master immediately saluted respectfully. Over the years, the sect master and the core elders had come over at the same time more than once or twice, and they had become accustomed to it. Several core elders of the Taishaman were all frowning at the moment. The traces of the missing cultivators indicated by the life source spirit tablet in their hands were also here, but they had been here more than once or twice, but they had never seen any strangers appear. Even if they used their spiritual awareness to explore now, they did not find any strange spiritual awareness. What was going on? Where is the young sect master? Sect Master Li ignored these servants and asked directly with a sullen face. Reporting to the sect master, after the young sect master punished manager Yang the day before yesterday, he retreated by himself and has not come out until now. A servant immediately replied cleverly. "Retreat." Sect Master Li frowned again. Li Liheng's cultivation of the spatial spiritual awareness cultivation method was very important to the sect. It was not a good thing to disturb his retreat at will. However, the traces of those missing cultivators obviously pointed to here. Now the representatives of the major sect were also waiting for him to give an explanation. It seemed that if Li Liheng did not come out to explain, it would not be so easy to get through. While thinking about it, suddenly a core elder's face changed greatly, and he exclaimed, "How could it be?" He suddenly rushed into the quiet room where Li Liheng retreated. Chapter 1395. Seeing the elder's behavior, Sect Master Li and several other elders were stunned, and they immediately found the abnormality with their spiritual awareness. Li Liheng, who should have been in retreat, seemed to be lying on the ground unconscious. How was this a retreat? When the representatives of the major sect who followed saw this situation, they couldn't care less about the blatant use of spiritual awareness in the territory of Taishaman. They all released their spiritual awareness and found the abnormality of Li Liheng. "Sect Master Li, the young sect master is sick, but the things around the young sect master, it's better not to touch them easily." In Yang Demon School's Lady Fanghua said directly. She was a member of the demon sect, and she has never dealt with Taishaman. She was not afraid of offending Taishaman, and she said what others wanted to say but did not dare to say. "Why, Lady Fanghua, are you still afraid of my Taishaman favoritism?" Sect Master Li was furious, and the killing intent in his eyes flashed away. If it weren't for so many people, he would have killed Lady Fanghua long ago. How could he let her speak like this in front of him? Sect Master Li, although Lady Fanghua's words are rude, there is a certain truth. Elder Min of the Green Jade Immortal Island, at this moment, jumped out to be a good person. Since everyone has doubts, Sect Master Li should avoid suspicion a little bit, so that everyone can rest assured. "Okay, let's go in together." Sect Master Li almost wanted to attack, the leader of the Taishaman sect, in the Taishaman Inner Mountain Gate, when has he suffered this kind of anger? If the representatives of the major sect can't find any evidence this time, then the Taishaman will never give up. Under the supervision of so many people's spiritual awareness at the same time, even if it was the Supreme Elder, it was impossible to play tricks in full view of the public. The Elder who rushed in also understood this. As a high-level core, he also knew the importance. He only paid attention to Li Liheng's body and did not touch anything on Li Liheng's body, so as not to leave any evidence for the representatives of the major sect. At this moment, Li Liheng had completely lost his consciousness and was lying limply on the ground. No matter how the Elder called out to him, he could not wake up. Other than the Taishaman, the rest of the people who came in were not interested in Li Liheng's condition at all. They only cared about something else, Li Liheng's Qianquan bracelet. As the young master of the Taishaman, he naturally would not use a low-grade Cosmos bag. This Cosmos bracelet had been refined by a Grand Supreme expert. Not only was it extremely spacious and safe, but it also had a protective function. Normally, it was in the shape of a wrist guard, which made it convenient for Li Liheng to access the items inside at any time. All the natal spirit tablets pointed to the Cosmos bracelet. Even Sect Master Li and several other core elders had noticed this. At this time, Sect Master Li and several elders' hearts sank. Those missing people were in Li Liheng's Cosmos bracelet. It seemed that the Taishaman were in big trouble this time. The Cosmos bracelet was taken down and placed in front of everyone. In order to avoid suspicion, Sect Master Li found a low-level servant from outside to do this. This servant's cultivation base was only at the foundation establishment stage. It was impossible to open Li Liheng's Cosmos bracelet, and under the eyes of everyone, it could not be faked at all. At this time, an elder helped Li Liheng up and examined him carefully. With this inspection, the elders all turned pale with fright. Li Liheng seemed to have suffered from qi deviation. Not only was the spiritual energy in his body in a mess, but even his knowledge was nearly destroyed. He couldn't wake up at all. It must be said that Yang Lan's arrangement was very clever. At this time, several elders did not find the most serious problem. In fact, Li Liheng had been completely crippled. His sea of consciousness seemed to be only half destroyed, but in fact it was a complete mess inside. Even if the great principal Golden Immortal came, he could not recover for him. The importance of Li Liheng to the Taishaman was self-evident. Others did not understand, but how could the core senior members of the Taishaman who were present not understand? At this moment, they could no longer care about anything else. It was important to save Li Liheng first. As long as Li Liheng could be safe and sound, they could continue to maintain the communication with Senior Lu Fengzi in the spiritual world. The Taishaman would have an unbreakable backing. As for the trouble in front of them, several core senior members understood that even if it was troublesome, the Taishaman would not be unable to resist it. At worst, they would put down their statuses, give enough face to the major sect, and give enough compensation. Under the benefits, who would not be tempted? When the Taishaman recovered in the future, they would settle today's humiliation one by one. At this moment, how could several senior members of the Taishaman not see that the missing female cultivators were definitely related to Li Liheng? Maybe Li Liheng was young and frivolous and lacked self-control, so he abducted some beautiful female cultivators for double cultivation. In the end, it was just a young sect master who was lecherous. As long as no one was killed, everything was fine. Speaking of which, it was also the fault of Sect Master Li and several core elders for being too arrogant and willful towards Li Liheng. Li Liheng's previous performance was absolutely amazing. He communicated with Senior Lu Fengzi in the spiritual world using the cross-border spiritual spirit cultivation method, which brought a lot of benefits to the sect. If nothing unexpected happened, Li Liheng was already the next sect master of the Taishaman. With this mentality, everyone turned a blind eye to some of Li Liheng's daily actions. Even when Li Liheng brazenly roped in some experts to strengthen his own power, the higher-ups turned a blind eye to it. The future of the entire sect belonged to Li Liheng. What was the point of recruiting a few masters at this time? They even deliberately told some important figures in their own faction to be on good terms with Li Liheng. If the top leaders had such an attitude, the attitude of the lower ranks could be imagined. As a result, the power of the young sect master in the sect could almost cover the sky with one hand. Even when he abducted beautiful female cultivators from other sect, the senior leaders did not hear a word about it. From another point of view, this did not necessarily mean that Li Liheng really had the means and was definitely qualified to be the future sect master of the Taishanmen. He was so outstanding now. In the future, when he really took power, wouldn't the Taishanmen unify the world? What was amazing talent! This was it. At this moment, the senior leaders of the Taishanmen had not realized the seriousness of the problem, but they had enough psychological preparation. This time, it would not be so easy to pass, and even they would lose a lot of face. Their own young sect master had made such a big trouble. If they did not show the first attitude, not give enough face to others, and not give enough compensation, how could the major sect let it go? 2 elders took care of Li Liheng, and the other elders and sect masterly faced the representatives of the major sect. In front of everyone, an elder carefully and slowly opened the interspatial bracelet and took out the things in it one by one. However, when he got a magic treasure that looked like a small courtyard model, the elder's face suddenly changed. Chapter 1396. The courtyard model looked like an Immortal's cave magic weapon at first glance. When he got the magic weapon, the elder had subconsciously explored it with his spiritual awareness, and immediately found the situation in the Immortal's cave. Elder Lu, please be gentle. There were more than 20 great Ascension stage experts from all the major sects, and all of them were closely watching Elder Lu's movements. How could they not see his abnormality just now? Immediately, someone spoke up to remind him, which was also a warning. Elder Lu glanced at Sect Master Li, and Sect Master Li and the other 2 elders nodded as if they had accepted their fate. From a psychological point of view, they already knew that this matter must have something to do with Li Liheng. It was nothing more than young people being lecherous. It was not a contradiction that could not be solved. In the eyes of the surrounding people, Elder Lu sighed and opened the magic weapon of the Immortal's cave. Everyone's eyes flickered and they immediately saw the situation inside the Immortal's cave. With just one glance, everyone almost broke out. Inside the Immortal's cave, there were nearly 200 naked women, all of whom looked like they had been raped countless times. All of their eyes were dull, as if they were walking corpses. Elder Li, Sister Lu, Hall Master Long, Elder Bei. A series of voices came out from the mouths of the representatives of the sect, and they had recognized the identity of those naked women one by one. As the exclamations increased, the curses began to sound. The next actions of the representatives of the sect really made several high-level Taishanmen feel ashamed. Each of them took out some dresses, and those who didn't use some cloth or leather to wrap all the naked women's bodies. Now the high-level Taishanmen noticed that the representatives of the major sect were all women, and they had expected this scene. What a thief! You're insane! A series of curses passed to the ears of the high-level Taishanmen, but at this moment, they could not refute anything and could only listen quietly. Since it had already happened, there was no point in quibbling. The only thing to consider now was how to end this matter. The sect had committed such an atrocious act. If word of this got out, the reputation of the Taishanmen would hit rock bottom. The dignified leader of the Tao sect was actually a pervert. How could the Taishanmen raise their heads in the future? If it was an ordinary disciple who did such a despicable thing, there would be no need to think about it. They would kill him first to atone for their crimes before talking about anything else. However, the one who did this was the young sect Master Li Liheng. Even if they did not look at anything else, they had to consider the realm-crossing spiritual cultivation technique that he cultivated. It had been at least tens of thousands of years since anyone had successfully cultivated the trans-realm spiritual refinement art, which allowed one to communicate with the spiritual realm. Putting everything else aside, just based on the guidance Li Liheng had brought to everyone through Senior Lu Fengzi, as well as the various benefits he had brought to the Taishaman's rapid development in the past few hundred years, just based on this point alone, they had to carefully consider how they should treat Li Liheng. In the mind of Sect Master Li, I don't know how many thoughts flashed through in an instant. Li Liheng must be protected, but how to protect him was a problem. Perhaps they could use the method of substituting a fake Li Liheng to kill the people, and then let Li Liheng change his face and take over the Taishaman with another identity. In any case, the trans-realm spiritual cultivation technique could not be lost. As long as one day they could contact Senior Lu Fengzi, one day Taishaman would have the capital to make a comeback. In the hearts of several high-level members, they didn't know how many times they had scolded Li Liheng. If he was lustful, then so be it. Could it be that there were no beautiful female disciples in the sect? Why did he have to provoke the female cultivators of other sects? Moreover, the low-level disciples were not allowed, they must be Yuanying stage ancestors and Deshang stage masters. Was this not enough trouble for the sect? Sect Masterly, what else do you have to say? Elder Min almost broke out. Elder Bei and Elder Lu, who had been missing for a long time, were found in Taishaman and became like this. In particular, the two of them were the traders of the Green Jade Immortal Island. What was the intention of the Taishaman to accept them? Some things really did not dare to go into depth. At least several major sect members, including the Taishaman themselves, knew that Lu Ziwei was actually Zhao Ziwei, the daughter of the Zhao family's patriarch. The problem was that the Zhao family manor was destroyed. Except for Yang Chen's family, there were no survivors. How did Elder Bei and Lu Ziwei fall into the hands of the Taishaman? Could it be that the Taishaman had long colluded with the Zhao family? The sect has an unworthy disciple, I have nothing to say. Sect Masterly sighed and lowered his head. Now the lower the attitude, the less it would arouse the anger of the major sect. In any case, they had to pass this hurdle first. Is it just an unworthy disciple? The elder of the Qiankuan sect suddenly interjected at this moment. What do you mean? Elder Lu immediately asked. What they saw in front of them was obviously the matter of the young sect Master Li Liheng alone. Did they want to involve other people? Look at what this is. The elder of the Qiankuan sect suddenly threw a piece of jade slip in his face and almost shouted in a hysterical tone, "The merit of the young sect master is meager. According to the records of merit rewards, the Taishaman really have many masters. So many masters have been dispatched to help the young sect master hunt for beauties, I admire." When everyone was shocked by so many women in front of them, the elder of the Qiankuan sect had been staring at the rest of the things in Li Liheng's Qiankuan bracelet. Just looking at a piece of jade slip, he couldn't help it anymore and immediately broke out. Recorded on the jade slip was the time and place where the female cultivator was brought back. Everything was very clear. Almost all the naked women found here were recorded. When the elder of the Qiankuan sect broke out, everyone recovered. So many masters of the Yuanying stage and Deshang stage were captured quietly. How could the young sect Master Li Liheng do it alone? Just looking at those records, there were at least more than hundreds of Yuanying stage masters, dozens of Deshang stage masters, and even more than a dozen great elders involved. This list alone included at least a quarter of the masters of the Taishaman. If the Taishaman wanted to use Li Liheng to carry the matter, it was simply a dream. The nightmare did not seem to be over at all. Just when Sect Master Li and several core elders were still racking their brains about how to deal with the situation in front of them, a rescued Deshang stage female cultivator suddenly said a few words intermittently. "Save me. He cultivates. Devil Heart Sutra." This female cultivator's cultivation base was high enough. Although she has been used as a cauldron by Li Liheng for decades, she has not been completely wasted and there was still a trace of consciousness. At this time, when she saw the familiar face, she immediately asked her elder for help. Hearing the words Devil Heart Sutra, Sect Master Li's eyes turned black and he almost fainted to the ground. Chapter 1397. As early as a long time ago, Li Liheng cried and begged Senior Lu Fengzi to show him the way to improve his spiritual awareness cultivation. Because Li Liheng cultivated the spatial spiritual awareness cultivation method, his spiritual awareness cultivation was unique and there was no good way to improve his spiritual awareness. Senior Lu Fengzi thought about it for a long time before saying a Devil Heart Sutra. However, Senior Lu Fengzi did not agree with Li Liheng's cultivation method at all. Not only did Senior Lu Fengzi disagree, even after hearing Li Liheng's retelling, Sect Master Li and several core elders all disagreed after understanding the Devil Heart Sutra. Devil Heart Sutra, that was a kind of devil's art. Not to mention that Taishanmen, as the leader of the Tao sects, should not be allowed to cultivate it. Even in the demon sects, the Devil Heart Sutra was also a taboo cultivation method. Taishanmen had a predecessor who killed the devil and killed the guy who cultivated the Devil Heart Sutra, but got the Devil Heart Sutra cultivation method. After bringing it back, it was put on the shelf and ordinary people were not allowed to see it at all. It was only kept as a record. After understanding the description of this kind of cultivation method, Sect Master Li personally ordered that Li Liheng was not allowed to think about it. This kind of cultivation method of harming others to benefit oneself was absolutely against the harmony of heaven and earth. How could the young sect master of Taishanmen cultivate this kind of cultivation method? Moreover, with Li Liheng's situation, with the step-by-step guidance of Senior Lu Fengzi, how could he cultivate this kind of cultivation method? Who knows how Li Liheng dared to secretly check this cultivation method and even began to cultivate it. At first, Sect Master Li and the others thought that Li Liheng was just lustful, so he captured these female cultivators, but now they realized that Li Liheng was simply using these female cultivators as cauldrons to improve his spiritual consciousness cultivation. No wonder Li Liheng, who was only in the middle Yuanying stage, already had the spiritual awareness of the middle Deshang stage. It turned out to be the credit of the Devil Heart Sutra. This time, why did these female cultivators become like this? There was a very reasonable and irrefutable explanation. The woman just now was the first. Soon, one after another, several female cultivators in the Deshang stage began to intermittently identify that they were used as cauldrons of the Devil Heart Sutra. I was not strict enough and was deceived by others. I am responsible for such a thing. At this moment, Sect Master Li's face was pale, and he was no longer as righteous as before. Even the form of address had changed to this one. Thinking back to the past, when was the dignified leader of the Taishanmen sect not high and mighty? Calling himself this one, was already giving face to others. When had he ever modestly called himself this one? Sect Masterly means that you plan to just admit your mistake and let it go? The people from the evil cult were not people who were easy to get along with. Since they had seized the Taishanmen's weakness, there was no way they would let them go so easily. If they did not take advantage of the situation to attack, when would they do so? We, the Taishanmen, will not cover up for all the disciples involved. Hand them over and let everyone deal with them. At this time, Sect Master Li also showed his ruthless character. The matter could not be suppressed anymore, and handing over Li Liheng could not calm the situation. They could only deal with all the guys who had made little contribution in exchange for the buffer time of the Taishanmen. Although those people added up already had a quarter of the strength of the Taishanmen, at this moment, if it was not done well, they would end up being attacked by the major sect. It was better to lose some of their strength than to be besieged. Sect Master Li made a prompt decision and cut off his wrist. Everything would be discussed later. Sect Master Li had to promise to deal with them on the spot, and he would hand them over to the major sect to deal with. Although these representatives of the sect seemed to come alone, everyone could understand that there must be someone behind them waiting for the news. Once something went wrong, they would all attack immediately. That was still external preparation. Elderly believed that every representative of the sect present had an Immortal's cave magic treasure, and there were at least a lot of masters of the sect waiting for them. If the Taishaman didn't give a reasonable explanation, it was not impossible for everyone to turn against them immediately. Sect Masterly would never allow such a thing to happen. The foundation of the sect must not be destroyed by them. Now, even if they had to endure humiliation, they had to keep the sect. There was still a green mountain, and there was no need to worry about firewood. The future was long, and there was plenty of time to settle the account. The representatives of the major sect were a little embarrassed at the moment. The current performance of the Taishaman gave them almost no reason to attack. Although there was no problem with a group attack, what would happen in the spiritual world and the immortal world? Just as everyone was hesitating, a person spoke, but it directly made Sect Master Li's decision to cut his tail to survive go to waste. Elder Bei Bei Shuangyu of the Green Jade Immortal Island, because she was shocked by Yang Chen at the beginning, she was scared and unable to make a move for hundreds of years. In addition, the Taishaman wanted to know the secrets of the Green Jade Immortal Island from Bei Shuangyu's mouth. At that time, Li Liheng volunteered that he could hypnotize Bei Shuangyu and let Bei Shuangyu speak. Based on this reason, Li Liheng did not make a move on Bei Shuangyu, but gradually used the Devil Heart Sutra method to torture the secrets of the Green Jade Immortal Island, leading to Bei Shuangyu being in the best state now. The influence of Yang Chen had completely passed, and Bei Shuangyu was smart enough to keep a hand, pretending to be dementia, so that she could maintain a relatively good situation. However, she was only a little better than other female cultivators. For the time being, she has not been destroyed into a madman. She has retained a little bit of her sanity, but her whole body's cultivation base has been abolished, and it is impossible to recover. However, the words that came out of Bei Shuangyu's mouth made all the representatives of the sect present angry. These female cultivators were not only abused by Li Liheng as a furnace, but also tortured a lot of secrets of their respective sect after being controlled. This was also Li Liheng's own small calculation. The torture of Bei Shuangyu was known to the sect, but the other female cultivators in the sect did not know. Li Liheng asked and slowly released the news in the future. This was all credit. Sect Master Li and the others really didn't know about the other female cultivators, but Bei Shuangyu clearly remembered that she had met Sect Master Li and several core elders after she woke up. If Sect Master Li and the others could still blame everything on Li Liheng and pretend that they didn't know about it, then Bei Shuangyu's identification in this situation directly made Sect Master Li and the others unable to shirk the responsibility. Sect Master Li, what do you mean by this? Elder Min's hand had already been placed on the magic weapon of the Immortal's cave that she carried with her, and at the same time her life-flying sword was also faintly revealed, and she directly asked Sect Master Li. Not only Sect Master Li, but the representatives of the other sect, their performance was almost the same. Everyone's eyes were all fixed on the core executives of the Taishaman sect, waiting for their answer. Everyone already knew in their hearts that the next moment was the time to turn hostile.